To this meeting to order. I want to welcome everyone to the April 17th, 2023 City Council meeting, and the core value of this month is transparency. So with that, I'll call this meeting to order and start with the invocations. Pastor Steve.
Lord, we just come before you tonight, thanking you for this great country that you give us, and Lord, we understand that without you we can do nothing. So Lord, we just come calling on you today for wisdom, thanking you for all that you do for us. As it said, gratitude is never enough that we can show. And so Lord, we just come and thank you. And I pray tonight for this meeting, each and every one involved. And Lord, again, we just ask for your guidance and your direction, and we want to give you glory and praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right, Councilwoman.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
I hear a motion. Do I hear a second? Second. Motion and a second. We'll call the vote. All right. Same thing, Dewey. I took a little second extra. That's my fault. All right, ayes have it, so moved. Thank you. All right. Up next is going to be our public comments. So I'm going to start with my right of the room and move left. Anyone over here want public comments? All right, seeing none. Middle. Oh, yes, sir. All right, the light's already on, so just your name and address and take it away. You got 3 minutes.
I'm Ron Sanstead. My wife and I live at 337 Calhoun, and we have Flutterby Antiques on Main Street. Those of you who know me know I'm all about making Destin better. I believe in safe neighborhoods, friendly shopping, beautifying our city, and living our best lives. We are at the initial stages of creating a new park, one we are calling the Linear Park. After 20 years, I cannot tell you how excited I am to finally see this becoming a reality. Unfortunately, along with designing a park, city staff wants to include a roadway that would connect to Highway 98. I don't have to tell you what a disaster that would be. It would be unsafe at any speed. If we are to have a park, then let's design a park. And let's not waste money or time designing a roadway. My other concern is that we had only one company who responded to the RFQ. Is that right? Really only one company? Is there really only one company that knows how to design a park? Oh, I can understand how they could only one company would know how to design a roadway. But a park's not that hard. By combining a road and a design request, I'm afraid the city excluded a variety of designers that could be cheaper and maybe even better. I'm tired of seeing our city spending exorbitant sums for relatively easy jobs. As for DAG architects working on this, I'm not against them. They are local and have long been advocates for making Destin a better city. My concern is that there were not any more bids. So please, let's get this started right. Forget designing a roadway and concentrate on creating a beautiful area we can all enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. All right. Anyone from the front here? So just push the button, get the light turning red, name and address, and you got 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Carol McIver. I live at 4718 Seastar Vista. Thank you, Mayor and Commission. I spoke to the Public Works Commission last week concerning the problem we have in Destiny East and Destiny West about Four Prong Lake, our flooding problem. This isn't just a neighborhood problem. It is a problem that concerns the whole city. We are forced to take on an exorbitant amount of stormwater runoff into that lake. I presented to the Public Works Commission a plan to bore underneath Scenic 98 to install a pipe, which will allow us a temporary fix for when we have to pump to prohibit flooding in our neighborhood. This will be coming to you all, hopefully, within the next month. And I just wanted to make you all be aware that this is coming down the pike. This is a temporary fix for us. We are looking at installing a weir drain in Four Prong Lake, which will alleviate the whole problem. But this boring under 98, Scenic 98, will, like I said, be a temporary fix. It allows us to not do all of the over and under and across Scenic 98 with all of the pipes and the barricades and the sandbags and all of the blocking. So this is going to be coming before you guys, and I just wanted to make you all be aware that this is coming down the pike. It's not just our problem. It is a city problem that's been forced upon these neighborhoods from the runoff, the stormwater runoff that's brought into Four Prong Lake from over 500 acres of water runoff, stormwater runoff from the design of the expansion of 98 and all of the other developments that have forced the water into this lake, which floods both of these neighborhoods. So I just wanted you all to be aware that this will be coming to you all, and I would like for you all to look earnestly at this problem that we have and to consider thoughtfully about this boring. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else in the middle? Yep, yes, ma'am. Hey, you
Yes,
can, but
thank
just put
you.
both names on the record for me, name and address.
Yes, we will. My name is Deborah, and my last name is Swinar. It's spelled Cwynar. And
I'm Ramona Reynolds, and we're neighbors. I live at 3681 First Street.
I live at 3683 First Street. And I sent an email to the mayor and to each of the council members, and I hope that everyone read it. My house was built in 1989, and this concerns the intersection at the corner of 4th Street and 1st Street. And a few months ago, I can't tell you the exact date, but I said in my email to you that the city manager, the city engineer, Ryan Scott, had contacted me about the impact that a project was going to have, particularly on my home and also on Ramona's home. So where 4th Street goes into 1st, apparently the stop sign there, according to code, it needs to be moved a certain number of feet to the right. And by doing that, it's going to eliminate a small, I know you guys have all been down that road, Teresa, you as well. There's a little road there, a little connector road.
For the boats.
And I believe, he wants to eliminate that because that should not be there. And I know why it's there. It's because Shane Sauer's dad had that boat building right there on the corner, and he had to have deliveries into his business. But at any rate, when he moves the stop sign, that intersection is going to be repaved. When it's repaved, it's going to be elevated. It's going to create a water runoff problem where none currently exist. My house has been there through many hurricanes. I've never had water in my front yard, and same with Ramona. The water, any that occurs building up in yards is further down from our homes. So a ditch is going to have to be dug.
In our front yards.
In our front yards.
And we have irrigation and our sprinklers, and I fear that it
Well,
will reduce our
all
property
of
value.
that will be impacted, our sprinkler systems. When they move the stop sign to the right, the headlights will shine directly into my front windows, where now they're kind of in between, it's kind of in between our houses. The water runoff is the biggest problem because that creates the drainage ditches. And I'm just asking if you could revisit that and see if there might be an option that might not be so destructive to our property.
That's it.
If you could consider.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I respond real quick? I'm Lance Johnson, and I reached back out to you.
Thank you so much. Yes, sir.
And I plan to get with Mr. Scott. He's been on vacation, so we're going to work on another solution to see what we can come up with.
I really appreciate your response and
pleasure.
that you do so. Thanks very much. Thank you all.
Awesome, thank you. All right, in the middle, going right, yep.
Sandy Trammell, 3823 Indian Trail. Tonight, I'd like to call your attention to the fee schedule you all have. And in the past, we've never had commercial launching at Joe's Bayou Recreation, and now we do. I would recommend we don't, to make it very succinct. I think we're going to have 2 new marinas built. They're going to have boat launching ramps. We already have one over on Calhoun as well. And I think commercially, that's where it needs to go. What you're going to see is you're going to see trailers with 6 wave runners coming in and out and in and out, and I don't think the public's going to have a whole lot of room to park there, even with the new park.
Thank you. All right, moving right along. Yes, sir.
Sorry, this may take just a second.
It's on.
Oh, it was on. Hit it again? Yeah, there you go.
Brian Otto, 3826 Indian Trail. How you guys doing tonight? I got a couple things here. I'll try to be in some kind of order, and then I'll try to read from something. I'll probably mess that up, though. First, I think all of you guys should know I've listened to I looked at my YouTube app. I've listened to over 250 hours of meetings here. So if you ever get discouraged and think no one's ever paying attention, we're out there. We're listening, right? For the most part, keep it up, spirit of cooperation. Let's work together, right? One thing I did notice, I just asked this generally, sometimes definitely over the last 6 months or so, the chatter on the mics, we're not picking it up online. So if you have something to say, just like we have to, please push the button and say it, because we can't hear it up there. Everyone's laughing, but we're lost. So I can't make it to every meeting. It won't happen, so please help me out there. I'm going to try to read something here. Bear with me. So I appreciate last week what I heard in the meeting. I think what you guys did there for Main Street and those residents is amazing. So here I am, right? We need speed humps, residential area, 3826, put them right in front of my house if you want to. Put 10 of them. I got 2 driveways on the Indian Trail. Put 2 of them there if you want. I don't care. It's the safety and well-being. Everything you guys said last week. If it was a no-brainer last week, it's a no-brainer this week. Come on. Safety, well-being of our citizens, the welfare of our community, utmost importance, all the things you guys said last week, right? We have no speed measures there. If you look at it from, I measured it from 3811 to 3863 Indian Trail, it's over 0.6 miles. I can see the sign with my own eyes. You know what they're doing if they're doing it in Main Street. You know what they're doing on Indian Trail. No stop signs from Indian Trail start to Indian Trail end. No traffic measures, nothing. We got nothing. You thought that little stretch between Main was bad? Sit in my front yard for a while, okay? And one last thing, we also have the lack of sidewalks, right? So we have everything you have there, no sidewalks. You guys got sidewalks. We got it all, right? And what happens, my mailbox has been hit. I'm on my 3rd mailbox, so what do I keep doing? I push it back a little bit. just making the road wider for them to come 90 miles per hour down the road, right? My corner is the bus stop for the elementary school, right? And all the kids that live on the other side of the street from me, what do they got to do? Cross that street every morning, every afternoon, right? So, put a speed bump right beside one side of the bus stop, right beside us the other side. Let those kids transverse through there safely, we'll be good to go. So I just kindly ask that one of you guys make a motion at the end of this meeting, or even now if you want to, and the rest of you guys support them. A couple other things here. We've listened, I've listened. We got the public works sign. We got the green signs. We're out there. We're yelling at them. We need something else, okay? We've done everything we can. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? No one from the, or no one from the Destin Chamber? All right, seeing none, I will close the public comments at this time. Yeah, I know. And at this time, I will look for a motion for the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
All right, with the motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Calling the vote? All right, ayes have it, so moved. Before we go, I think that's pretty cool how many public comments we had this afternoon. I appreciate everyone coming on out, and if you're up there in the YouTube universe, come on in, and we'd love to hear from you as well. So with that, we'll go into the city manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 4A is regarding the Linear Park 98 Palms Boulevard extension and acquiring the design engineering firm. What we did as staff was put an RFQ out, and as was mentioned earlier, DAG did respond to that, and our bid committee, once received, went over that submission from DAG Architects to make sure it was responsive and responsible, and it was. So at this point, staff is asking for council's permission or to grant me the ability to negotiate an agreement with DAG, which we would bring back hopefully at the very next council meeting for council approval to get this project underway and keep it on schedule.
All right, Councilman Bagby.
I move to authorize the city manager to negotiate the terms of a service agreement with DAG Architects Incorporated for the design of the Linear Park and 98 Palms Boulevard extension and bring that back to the council for consideration at the next council meeting.
All right, I hear a motion on the table. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion?
Put on your mic.
One question. I discussed it with Lance and Jeff today, and there is no intermingling with the linear park design with the road that may slow it down. Is that correct? That was my understanding?
That's right. The first focus will be on the trailway, and then after that point in time is when we would tackle the roadway.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Councilman Bagby.
And just to Ron's point, I'm not sold on the east-west part of the road. I am sold on the north-south part of the road, but that's what they're going to bring us back, and it'll, the Parks and Rec will look at it, or Public Works will look at it, we'll look at it, you'll look at it. So you're going to have a chance to provide input on the design of that park, because I agree it should substantially be a park, but we need to get this on the road here.
All right, thank you. Councilman Schmidt.
Thank you. Just to clarify, is there a reason we didn't do a separate RFQ for the linear park versus the road extension?
Yes. Since they are going to eventually need to coexist if both are approved, and assuming they are, I mean, the design considerations have to be taken into account at the same time. When the trail is designed, you have to at least take into account that a roadway may be going in that area too. And so it makes more sense to have the same firm do that.
So then you'll be negotiating with them to design this entire project split up into two phases, but the idea is that they'll be proposing phase 1 and phase 2 at the same time, but they're going to have it separated out.
That's right. And Jeff, I don't know if you have any additional information on that?
Yeah, we would have phase 1 be the park design, phase 2 being the road design. Phase 1 would take priority and happen first. There might be some elements that happen at the same time when it comes to the road design, more the placement of the road, but not the design so much. So we need to know where the road would be placed in order to do the park design.
Is it normal to have, I would say, two separate projects, probably two separate funding sources, possibly two separate grants and everything be RFQ'd and negotiated at the same time with one contractor?
In this case, I think it makes sense because they're so
It makes
closely
sense,
related.
but do we do that with multiple projects in the past? Or we take two separate projects and ask for somebody to do them together?
This is the first time we've had a project like this that's been so closely related.
Okay.
So that's my first experience with that type of thing, so.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I appreciate the answers.
All right, Councilwoman Naber?
Thanks, Mayor. Ironically, Jim said exactly what I was going to say, and then followed up with Kevin on the two proposals, but the park is what we want first anyway, so that's going to be the project, and then we'll consider the second half afterwards. But all of this is part of what we got the grant through with Representative Maney, correct? So we have to do this and keep it on a time track so we can get this park started, right?
The linear trail is what the funds were appropriated for.
Thank you.
All right, Councilman Destin.
Just one more clarification on that. If we haven't designed the road, how can we know where it's going to be to design the park? It seems to me, which is coming first, the horse or the cart? I think we've made it pretty clear we want the park first. And if you have a general idea where the road is, I suppose you can work that into it, but don't hold up the park.
Any further discussions? Johnny? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved.
Next up, item 4B is regarding the utility wrapping project. We got an update in funding, and I have Mr. Louis Zunguzzi to give the update on those wraps.
Good evening, Chair, Mayor, and council members. If you recall, a couple of months ago, you approved for the city to move ahead with 4 utility boxes for the art projects in the city. 3 of them for the project itself, and the other one for the Carlton family relating to the tragedy that took place on Kelly and Maine. We're at a point today, if you would go ahead and approve us to move forward with it. We are just waiting for final approval of the design from the Carlton family, and also the permit from Florida Light and Power. For any other details, I'll let the city engineer get into any specifics that you may have.
Thank you.
Ryan, do you have the final wrap design for our special one on the corner of Kelly and Maine by any chance for viewing purposes?
I do have it. I was waiting till the family approved that design before showing it to everyone.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Looking good.
Item 4C, Harbor District paid parking and the non-resident parking.
Just, if you don't mind, I don't hate to interrupt you, but there's a recommendation for a motion, so do y'all need that, or?
Oh, okay, my bad. I guess
I'll move that the city council direct city manager to proceed with the next steps to the utility wrapping project using funds from the city council contingency fund.
Second.
All right. Calling the vote.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I was reading update. All right, ayes have it, so moved.
Now we have item 4C. Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Harbor District paid parking. Council had asked staff to bring back a recommendation that would help out some of the folks that work down in the Harbor District to better be able to afford parking in that area. After reviewing several options, staff arrived at what we believe is the best option for all parties involved and not creating a major workload on the existing city staff, and that would be to put into effect a non-resident parking pass, which employees down in that Harbor District could purchase from the city. We came up with a number of $205 that could be changed by council, but the basis we based that on was that is what we charge for a non-resident pass at Joe's Bayou. This pass would be just like the resident parking pass in that it's non-refundable, non-transferable, and runs from January 1st to December 31st. It's by the calendar year, so if you purchase it now, it still expires on the 31st. And what we would hope, in order for this to benefit the employees down in that area, is that those businesses would reimburse them. The staff would come in and purchase it, and we would hope if those businesses wanted to, they could reimburse those staff members for that cost or a portion of it.
All right. Councilman Guile.
Yes, I have just a couple quick questions. One, if this employee loses their position down there on the harbor, or how do we revoke that, or does it stay intact?
Yeah, in this scenario, it would stay intact. They've paid the $205. It would stay intact until the end of that calendar year.
All right. Is there a maximum number of passes we're going to allow?
Council could propose that. That's not proposed in this recommendation.
Okay. So I realize that I kind of initiated this in the beginning, and I apologize because I'm going to backtrack a little bit. But one thing I want to make aware, it's up to that business owner to provide parking for their employees and for their customers. One thing I don't want to see happen are the business owners taking advantage of the city or the taxpayers or the taxpayer revenue in this scenario by not providing parking for their employees, utilizing that parking to make money or revenue, and then them getting a discounted rate on city parking in the process. So, and I know that's a lot of steps there, and I hope I made that somewhat clear. I'm kind of throwing that out there. But I'd almost like to see some way that we can organize this to where, one, it's not a permanent situation, to where they're from January to December without any type of repercussion, or there's a maximum number that can be issued, period. Because my fear is, I mean, there's a lot of good business owners out there with ethics and morals. There's some that may or may not, and may be tempted to just say, let me charge $20 an hour for my parking spot, let them my employees get the $200 fee, go over to the city, and I'm no longer obligated to provide them that parking. And that's also putting a burden on their employee to pay for that fee. So in this process, I would like to propose that, one, we put a maximum limit, and I don't know that number. I would like some people up here that have more history with this situation or this scenario to kind of throw that number out there. But by far, I don't think it should be more than 50, in my opinion. And that we have some way of limiting people from just taking a job for a week, quitting, and then they have parking all year long to do whatever they want. I don't know if there's a motion in there. It's just for consideration.
All right. Next is Councilwoman Abear.
I know what we were trying to do.
I know, my bad. It says first, then next. You want to go next?
Did you want to go? I can go after you.
Yeah, jump in, please, so I'll keep my
Sure, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion, and I'd like to have a discussion, but my motion is I move to implement annual non-refundable, non-transferable Harbor District parking pass for non-residents at a cost of $205.
Second.
All right. So now
So,
we'll continue discussion.
appreciate that. For discussion, just, Tori, I hear what you're saying. I think first we want to make sure, unless you don't hear it this way, it's not a employee parking pass, it's a non-resident parking pass, right? So you could have somebody that frequents our establishments on the harbor weekly as a patron. They come from Fort Walton, they could buy this. It's not for just employees. I think John used that as an example maybe about employees at that past meeting I wasn't at, but this is for anybody that's not a citizen of Destin could buy one of these. And so will that help the employees? It looks like it will, because I'll point out, in case for the record, nobody had a chance to see it, but 100 days of summer, currently it costs whoever uses it $500 currently. With our proposed $20 change, it's $2,000, and I think that's when John said, It's going to hurt a lot of employees, and that was their example. So for that employee or for any person that bought one of these, it's now going to cost $205. I don't think a tourist is going to buy this pass. I think they're going to pay the $20. And I think if there's somebody that's coming down here to the Harbor District multiple times that could benefit, we give them a discount, because it's going to help them for whatever reason they're here for. So I don't think we should limit the number of them and you can't transfer it. It's a sticker. It's just like the residential one. Only way you could transfer it is if they took it off their window, I imagine, and put it on a new window. But I could do that with my resident one too. I don't do that. So I'm not worried about that, because it's not like a piece of paper from my understanding. It's a sticker. So I think this is a great start. And if there's different prices, something like that you want to recommend, I'm fine. But I think this is a great start for what y'all started with the discussion last time. So that's what I got. Thanks.
Now, Councilwoman Abear.
Thanks, Mayor. And Kevin, that's the same track I was going to take. Lance and I had talked about it because it's really hard to have a business, say they have 15 employees, come in and say, hey, I need 15 parking passes, $205 a pop. I'm going to hand them out to an employee, and the employee quits in 2 months, and then they don't get that sticker back. This way, the person that buys the sticker is pretty much going to pay for it. This might be incentive for the business owners to say, look, if you've been with us 60 days, we'll pay that parking pass. We'll give you the $205. Then that way, that encourages those employees to stay with that business to make that money back. So that's kind of how we came to this fruition of it, and that's why I had put it under my name for parking for residents, meaning people that live in Kelly Plantation and Regatta Bay, those that are non-tax-paying Destin, but they're residents. This is a way they can then get a parking pass and park all year long for $205 at all of the city parking. They live in Destin, and it benefits them. They're not getting the free pass because they don't pay the city taxes, but this gives it across the board an easy way. And the millions of people that come throughout, it's not even 100 days of summer anymore. I know that there's 100 days, but we never really slow down. So I don't think we're going to lose money. And I think it's going to be a goodwill to the business owners if they tell their employee, go buy your pass, you're going to pay $205. If you're here 30 days, we'll pay you back. Or if you're here 60 days, we'll pay for it. That's how the employers can keep those employees staying versus just one day they quit because they got a free pass. Does that make sense? That's all I have, Mayor.
All right. First, Councilman Destin. There we go. Got it.
A lot of them up there.
I was just going to point out that since there are probably 1,000 to 1,500 employees on the harbor and we have 300 spaces, this is not going to fix the problem. And I don't think the employees will spend $205. They're going to try to park in somebody else's parking lot and not pay anything at all. The $20 that we raised, that we voted to raise the parking fees at the parking lot, has that been instituted, or is that part of this motion?
So the next item, I believe it's the next item, is the draft fee schedule. And if that is, the direction is given for that, then that'll be brought back at the next meeting, which will implement that change.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure an opportunity to vote against that. And to clarify the parking, okay, we have some disagreement back there? Is that the way it's going, Webb?
He was providing me some information on something else.
The way we arrived where we're at, when all of the property owners on the harbor gave the easements for the harbor walk, they were all promised that the city would put parking in. And in addition to not putting the parking in, other than the limited first surface lot we have, the city reduced the required parking for all the businesses. So when they built new business, the parking, when you use the credits and everything else that made available when they changed the parking requirements, were half the parking that it had been prior to that. So we're in a double whammy here. New businesses don't have to put the parking in, and we haven't put the parking in that we promised we would put in when they gave easements for the harbor walk. Well, I like to think that some folks will sign up for this $205 parking fee. I certainly look forward to seeing how many do.
With that, just so I get a point of clarification on that, was that like embodying then like a parking garage, is like what they were promising, or what did that look like?
That's three.
Oh, Mike.
Mr. Baggy is exactly right. They promised 3 parking garages, and we've not been able to build those. And I'm not sure they would be able to pay for themselves if we did. But in any event, you know, that's how we got into the situation we're in now.
All right, thank you for that. Councilman Bagby.
Thank you. So, and I hear you, Tori, and you may be having buyer's remorse or whatever, but, you know, I think we're going to find out that we're going to have the law of unintended consequences with this measure. I keep asking, and I know I'm waiting for Councilman King, because he'll probably tell me exactly where they are, but, you know, I know the fleet doesn't really have a parking problem. I don't think Mr. Destin has a parking problem now that he had to buy that extra lot there. You know, Harbor Walk doesn't have the parking problem, so I keep asking the staff and hammering them, what problem is this solving? And I'm sure there are 1 or 2 businesses, you know, maybe pontoon boat rental business or a couple of the boats, you know, that just have a slip and not a lot of parking. You know, where are we trying to solve this problem? We're a solution in search of a massive problem and I understand it's to raise revenue, and if y'all want to do this, that's fine, I'll support it. I just am unclear exactly, because I haven't had a single business owner, not one, from the harbor area come to me and say, please support this because I've got 6 staff, 8 staff, 25 staff, whatever, that don't have a place to park, because they probably know I would ask, well, why, is that our fault? Because it could be, we could have contributed to that, or is it your fault, or whose fault is that? And I would not support capping. I asked the same set of questions to the staff, but the problem with capping is it's probably the person who has 6 employees that needs these parking passes as opposed to somebody that has 500 employees down there on the west end of the harbor. So I'm going to support whatever y'all work out in this, because.
All right, Councilman King.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I would sort of echo the same thing, but I do think I was going to propose that we have a, you know, the main beneficiaries for something like this are going to be the people who need parking on the west end of the harbor district. I don't think that Harbor Docks and Beauchamps, I don't know for sure, but I hadn't talked to them, but I don't think that they're utilizing this parking the way that AJ's or maybe the Wharf, or sorry, Rotulas, or the Fisherman's Wharf area, and that area, Mr. Destin's, I think that those people would probably be the beneficiaries of such a thing. My recommendation, I think that this is a great idea. I think I have had several people reach out in the situation where they pay more property taxes than I do even. You know, they may live in Kelly Plantation or on the fringe of the Destin city limits, that they use these parking places, they use these paid parking lots every day. They've just been reaching out to me. So that would be I would support this for that, is the people who are coming here to do business every day, not necessarily tourists. I don't think, like Mr. Schmidt said, I don't think they're going to pay for it, but I would support this for that. And then I would suggest considering for the employees of the Harbor District who are using these lots every day, I would support doing a $50, like Mr. Giles saying, a $50 pass. The cost of doing business for me is, I've got 26 subscriptions I pay every month that are just the cost of doing business. You know what I mean? And I think that would be a reasonable. I worked in that industry, and I know what kind of money they make down on that harbor. I don't think that's too much of a stretch, and I think that they would buy it for that.
All right, thank you. Councilman Guile.
Just a quick follow-up to what we're discussing here from my initial perspective. So the business owners aren't the ones that are calling me. It's actually the employees. So, and it was my understanding that that's the reason we were looking at this, is because of the conversations that Mr. John Stevens had with us during the previous council session, I believe. And with my conversations with city staff, it appeared that that was the purpose or the reason that drove this little path to begin with. So I can understand what we're doing here. I guess, a little confused is how we've separated completely out one from the other, but I can get over that, and I can support anything you guys have moving forward for this.
I just kind of have a question at this point then. So if we're raising the parking pass money and we're raising just the day rate for those who don't have any kind of pass, the object is then to build the promised garages? Is that what we're all in consensus with? I'm just trying to get on, like, there's not really time to talk on this, so I'm just trying to figure out, is that what the brainchild of this is?
That was my understanding, is the goal for the increase is so that we can actually supply the parking garages.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, Bagby? That was my next question to Crystal, without throwing you a curveball.
Hey, I was not involved in the beginning of raising the parking fees to begin with. I don't know what the impetus was. I'm not sure what the end resulting objective was. So if you don't mind, I'm going to leave it with the people who've been championing this parking increase from the beginning. But I was just, we do have a parking fund. And council did pass a resolution to commit all of the fees collected through parking to address parking and traffic issues in Destin. This is intended originally to build structures, to add more spaces, and to pave and maintain our parking places.
Okay, and then I have one other question for you that's not specific. How many years of revenue do we need to show to then use that income to get a loan, if you will, from what we get as a government agency? Like, what if we're trying to find money to then pay for this up front? Man, I said this way better in our council briefing. Are you tracking with me? I can say it another way. I don't mind looking like a dummy. Yeah. So basically, to use this as a proof of income so that we can have a loan against that. For future, so we can have it up front and then pay it off over time, since this is a generating project.
Right, so my understanding is, there's a cost per space. I'm not sure what size of parking garage we're looking at, but yeah, there are a lot of factors that would go into the projecting the revenue streams out before taking them forward to get a bank loan to build a structure.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
We could do that at some point. We could do all that research for you, but I don't have anything at my fingertips.
No, I didn't want numbers. I was just kind of curious if it's 1 year of income to show, or if it's 3 of an average, or whatever that may look like. All right, so thank you. All right, Councilman Bagby?
Yeah, I would refer y'all to the resolution, to paragraph 2B, okay, where it specifically says, funds from the Parking Special Revenue Fund shall be committed only for parking-related expenditures at existing and future parking locations, including but not limited to installation and maintenance of pay stations, merchant services, and other collection expenses, periodic restriping, repaving. So it's not a transportation fund. It is a parking fund, period. That's what we approved, and that's where this money is supposed to go. And as far as the longer we show, the more it gains, the bigger the loan you could get, because you'd have to show that you could repay that loan. So if you get the loan now, you're getting a surface lot. If you wait a year or two, you might be able to build a parking structure.
All right, thank you for that. All right, Councilman Schmidt. That was it? All right, thank you. All right, so I have, everyone good on what the motion is?
Yeah.
Fair enough, call the vote. Ayes have it, so moved.
Item 4D is the schedule of fees in Resolution 23-06. We have updated some of the fees. We will be returning with additional updates in the near future. And Ms. Crystal Strickland is here if you have specific questions.
Yeah, I can just say in a synopsis for this, this draft of the schedule of fees, we did a 10% increase to most of the fees that affect the building department as related to community development and building permits. And then if you scroll down to page, see, it would be page 74 in the item. It's the second to last page in the packet, I believe, for this item. That's where you'll find the changes to the parking fees. And we have also recommended a change to increase the fine. Currently, a fine for parking without, in a paid parking place without paying for it, the fine is $33. So we're recommending to increase that to $100. We're also increasing other parking infractions from $30 to $100. Lastly, I've also added an NSF return check fee that the city didn't have priorly in its approved schedule of fees. And this is $30. This is straight out of the Florida statutes. It's $30 or up to 10% of the check amount, whichever is greater.
Awesome. With that, I have some discussion. So Councilman Schmidt.
Thank you. Kyle, how does it work when we made a motion to direct city manager to adjust harbor parking fees to $20, and now we're having to do this?
Yeah, I think, so there was some discussion about whether that was going to be essentially automatically self-executing essentially and incorporated in. But Crystal has been working on this schedule of fees resolution cleanup for a very long time. I think it makes more sense to incorporate everything in one schedule of fees so y'all will have one nice clean document moving forward.
So it might make sense, but we made a motion to change the parking fees at the Harbor District, $20. So shouldn't that be as done, right?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was
taken out of the schedule of fees. It should already be done.
I think it was going to be implemented in May or something. May, so it hasn't been implemented yet.
I guess I'm confused. We made a change to the parking fee. Council voted on it. We changed it. And now you're presenting it to us again in a schedule to vote on it again, to maybe change it or maybe not change it.
The
So
schedule is not
what's the
for
point of
voting,
what we
it's
did?
for informational purposes. And then, based on the discussion and your review of this draft, a resolution, this will be turned into a resolution and brought to the next meeting. So this schedule of fees was brought for discussion purposes, not to make a move, to make a motion to set it in stone yet.
So was the motion that was presented back in March not accurate because you have to have a resolution to put forth the fees?
I think
Is the
that
resolution required?
No, I think that if the schedule and resolution, subsequent resolution was brought to you after May 15th, it would have been incorporated. It hasn't been implemented yet because that did not take effect until May 15th. So this is being presented to you as it will be taking effect.
Am I the only one that's confused about what we asked to do and now we're not?
Yeah, jump in.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with this because Kyle's right. It's not in effect. The reason we have this schedule is so we have a single source that citizens, non-citizens, visitors, whoever can go to and say, what are the parking fees? So that they don't have to find a resolution or an ordinance over here or go, search it. It's all in one spot. So if it were in effect now, you know what it would say in here? $20. It's not in effect now, but guess what? At the next meeting, when it does go into effect, it'll say $20. And then that's when they'll start. So it's incorporating,
I get that's what the schedule is for, right. But the reason we were told that we had to do May was because Webb said we needed more time to do it on the app or something like that to implement it. It was nothing to do with the schedule. So my assumption is we've already voted to raise those fees. So if we're going to possibly change that tonight, we can't do that. because we've already made a motion and directed the city manager to do that.
We're not changing.
Changing,
Okay,
It's $20.
period.
got it. So it is $20.
Yeah.
Okay.
$20 is $20.
Okay. Are y'all, Crystal, I know you had the 6 items on here. Should we add, do you not want us to add any other areas of the schedule at this point?
Yeah, this is for discussion, so if you guys
Sure.
come to consensus on any additional changes, we'll incorporate
So one
those.
thing I was hoping to do was look at the Parks and Rec field fees. We have, I had an organization reach out to me that rents out the Morgan's fields, and they do it for multiple days at a time. And it started, they asked the question, and it brought some thoughts to my mind about, do we not offer any type of multi-day discounts? So I guess my first question is, do we offer any type of multi-day discount when organizations reserve our fields? Do you know?
Sadly, the Parks and Rec department was not able to respond and review this, but I'm not aware of any.
Lance, do you know about anything like that? I know you used to do Parks and Rec.
Yeah, what I can tell you is that I don't know that there's directly a discount for multiple days, but it depends on the type of organization that is renting, because council years ago approved a cost recovery method, and we have goals of obtaining a certain amount of fund recovery. So you look at the total cost it costs the taxpayers, and then for like a for-profit organization, we would be asking for 100% or more recovery. For our youth or our seniors, we'd probably be looking at probably a very small percentage of recovery, because they're a target group. And like for open park use, it is a 0% recovery. We open that up. So I hope that answers the question.
No, it does. I guess my comment, and if there are other people want to support it, would be, I think we should look at offering some type of, still achieve that goal, but still offering some type of multi-day discount, because if a soccer organization or a lacrosse organization or a baseball organization or anybody is going to reserve a field for 90 days, 120 days, or what, I mean, I know these soccer clubs play year-round. If it's not going to take away from another organization that's going to pay the same fee, better to make something than nothing. I mean, I think, some type of multi-day, even just 10%, I mean, something less than a single day. If I'm going to book it for 100 days out of the year, all at one time, I think we should do something different there. That'll be my only other comment, Crystal, to throw out to the council about it.
Okay,
That's it right now.
so that would be on page 8 of this draft. That's where you'll see the difference between the commercial versus nonprofits.
Right, I've seen that.
And also, I just wanted to reiterate what Lance is saying. Council did pass a resolution at some point in the past that states Parks and Recreation needs to cover 25% of its total costs through user fees.
Right.
Last year, I think we covered it by 15%, so the user fees do need to come up. Just as an example of that, in this schedule we're showing $20 per hour per employee for personnel costs outside of normal hours, but my fully loaded cost, which includes health insurance, life insurance, and all of these other things, is actually $30 an hour. So this section really needs a lot of updates, and I'm hoping that Parks and Rec will come around to
Sure.
that by the end of the year.
Well, I would just add that thought for the Parks and Rec when y'all look at it then.
Right. So, but I am going to make sure that they look into maybe some time discounts for the more days that are booked.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think if we're raising the
That's it.
price, that's a great time to put a discount in.
Yeah. I mean, especially if people were wanting to rent it like at, let's say, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, when no other organization probably rents it, we're making $0 if we don't let them. If we give them a discount, it might be $80 instead of $100, so why not? $80 is better than 0, so.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Councilwoman Abear.
Thanks, Mayor. Some of our constituents have stated that there is some activity, especially in some of the nicer beach homes over there on Crystal Beach, as well as on Noriega Point, where there are tents being set up for wedding rehearsal dinners, and then the next day, a rehearsal, and code goes out, and they charge them $500 a fine for using that tent on Friday night, and the business that's charged $10,000 just blinks an eye, doesn't care. The tent stays up, and the next day, they have the wedding there, and then they get fined another $500. Is this the time to raise that fee to like $5,000 for those people that are, first offense is $500, second offense is $5,000, or some sort of jump, so that they don't go, we're making a profit, we'll pay that, we're just going to leave it up for the week or the weekend. So is there a way that, we can't talk about this except up here. And is there anybody else that has not gotten all these emails from people that are like, my entire front part of the beach is blocked by a 20-foot tent? And it's there for 3 days in a row, and they get fined, but they're not doing anything because it's not it's like a little thump. Here, we're going to just get that from it. So can we talk about what's a doable increase? Is there a monetary amount you're allowed to go up when you're on a second fee? Especially if it's a business in Destin that knows what the rules are and doesn't care, and that business is constantly getting fined $500. Anything?
If you'll give me time to work with Ms. Kopp and our new code enforcement, or code compliance director, can we bring something back to you on that?
I just feel like while we're upgrading fees, if we're going to upgrade some fees, some of the fines that we have that are just absolutely nothing in today's cost of what these businesses charge, it's not even a 2% cost of what they charge for those tents. That's just one example of the fees that, yeah, if you can bring something back, that'd be fantastic. But, you know, like hopefully in the time to put it into this fee update. Okay, Mayor?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. I just want to make sure that we're within the current statutes, because some of those restrict us on the fines we can issue. So,
Councilman Bagg, I accidentally kicked you off. All right. All right, up next, Councilman King?
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I'd brought this, I'd brought this up to Kyle before, and Kim, I think about the Joe's Bayou boat launch fees. I had kind of had a change of heart and was going to see what they recommended, being that I was on the winning side of that boat. I've potentially changed my mind, and I've absolutely changed my mind on the $20 fee at Joe's Bayou, and was going to see if we could bring that back up.
I mean, yeah, I think this is the time to do it. This is just a resolution. Y'all can change resolutions without regard to time. So this resolution has in fact not even been put in place yet. So I believe you could make that change tonight if you wanted to.
As this agenda item goes, I'd like to make a motion for Destin residents for Joe's Bayou launch fees to be free of charge.
All right, I have a motion.
So, Johnny, just real quick, because there is no recommended motion here, do you want to direct staff to bring back the schedule of fees together with Teresa's request to look at the commercial events and with a change to Joe's Bayou?
Yeah, so
fees?
we would.
Because I think that what would be easiest is we could do this a couple ways. We could have one motion that incorporates all of the changes that council decides on tonight. Or we could go item by item, which sometimes might be easier because not everyone's probably going to agree with every item, if you understand what I'm saying. So we could tackle this issue, we could tackle Teresa's issue separately. It depends on how council wants to proceed.
So you're telling me we should bring this back? That motion should come back?
If we vote on everything yet, then we will, yeah.
Okay.
So I guess I just want to clarify what your motion, is it just related to that issue? And then,
Yes.
because I think probably Teresa, it'd be best if you want to incorporate yours in a separate motion as well, just so council has that direction to make that change to this schedule. But let's deal with them. Yeah, okay.
All right. And then,
Guy, was that a second on you? Did you second that?
Yes.
Okay, so at this point, any other discussion on?
On Johnny's motion?
Yes.
Yeah, so I I had kind of teeter-tottered on that. I mean, I use that boat launch a lot. My constituents and my family use that boat launch a lot. And after looking at everything else we've talked about this evening, and I've been thinking about this for weeks, but it seems like I just had a change of heart as far as that thing goes. I mean, $20 or free, I feel like that's something that we should be able to provide to Destin residents, for them to be able to use a city-owned, city-run, newly renovated boat ramp and park at no charge to them, aside from what they're already paying the city of Destin in taxes.
And just for a point of clarification, it was 20 for the year for a resident, is how we voted it in? Is that how we passed it last time? Okay. All right. Who wants to speak on this? I'm all.
I do too. Johnny, what happened for us to put this in place was things like, okay, our Destin City residents, those moms, they pay a soccer fee. And I had a lot of moms call and say, I'm glad the guys are finally having to pay for their boating. So I think the Destin residents, in a big scheme of things, there was pros and cons on both sides of it. It's a $20 monetary annual fee for launching the boat. Every time they sign their kids up for soccer or baseball or stuff at the community center, there's all small fees. So it kind of, I boat, I fish, but I'm just saying, there were a lot of people that were happy that the guys were having to pay out of pocket because the moms were paying for the soccer and all the other little things. So I don't think $20 a year is a big cost. It helps us maintain and do what we need to at Joe's Bayou. It helps us take care of that lot as well as our employees there. And it's very minimal cost at this point.
I think that's I feel like I understand the argument. I would fall back on the heritage of this town. This is the world's luckiest fishing village, and people ought to be able to have the ability to launch their boat at a place that they already pay for.
All right. Dustin?
Well, in support of John, we're going to let them park in the parking facility free, but we're not going to let them launch their boat for free. There's no rational connection between those two thoughts. And so I was under the impression we weren't charging residents to launch their boats anyway. I guess I didn't pay attention that this was going to institute a charge. So
It was a different meeting. We passed that.
okay, so, and I would point out also, there are, 100 fees or so in this resolution? There's quite a few. Each and every one of them can changed by a vote of the council. Now, whether you do it tonight, we'll be here for a long time, or we tell them to bring this back to us and let's take a bite at it. As I listened to the staff, we went up an average of 10% on some. We have gone from $5 to $20 on the parking. You lump all that together and it doesn't seem quite as onerous as going from $5 to $20, but I know the council wants to do that. But, any fee in here can be changed by a vote of the council. And as far as charging the residents to launch their boat, that just doesn't line up with letting them park for free.
All right. Councilman Bagby? You got anything? Okay. This was from the last one, so I'm just kind of spitballing here. So, Gal, go ahead. I'm just shooting from the hip right now.
It's all right. My first question is, I'm going through the agenda packet provided, and I see right here it states that there's a draft schedule of fees. Is there a copy of this draft somewhere?
It's in your agenda packet.
It's in the agenda packet?
It's in the agenda packet, yeah.
And there's both a redlined and a clean version of the draft.
There's two. Where is it at, though? I'm sitting here looking at the order of where we're moving here, and I'm having trouble finding it.
We are on D, 4D.
Right.
So it is way down.
Way down?
You are.
All
Okay,
right.
so I'll go ahead while you're going down.
No, I'm good. Let's move forward.
So, go ahead. You want to go?
Yeah, so my next question about the Joe's Bayou is is there city cost involved in allowing somebody to use that boat ramp for free? Is there any type of cost that the city incurs by allowing a citizen to use that boat ramp for free?
Yes. There's costs associated with the facility, and we staff that facility during the peak season. So from spring break basically through the Destin Fishing Rodeo. We staff it. So those costs are there.
Okay. Do we have any idea approximately what those costs are on a daily basis? Are they insignificant in the grand scheme of things?
I would not say that they're insignificant.
I'll just point out, they're going to go up too as this project gets completed and we have landscape and everything else that'll go in as an expense yearly.
So non-residents are paying 25? Or will be on this one. And is that enough to cover these city incorporated fees based off non-resident? Are we anticipating the non-residents are going to be able to cover all of our city fees?
I mean, based on my experience with that facility, even at $0, we're recovering enough to pay the staff that's out there, if that's the question. And I think originally that was part of the goal from council, was to recover, if we were going to put staff out there to help, that we would recover that amount.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and defer to Mr. Bagby while I find the schedule.
Okay.
Feed.
And I will probably not support doing away with it primarily because of what Teresa said, but I would remind the council, we have a resolution, which we could change. I can't remember if it's 08 or 13. Crystal alluded to it earlier, that we pay our way. Okay? That we don't subsidize everything, that we pay our way. So our building department, and I know this is going to be a couple of questions probably, is supposed to be completely unsubsidized. So somebody comes in and wants a building permit, it's exactly what it cost us to send out that inspector, or it's exactly what it cost us to pay that engineer to review those plans. And this is our first step at doing that. I'm going to, once we get through this motion, I'm going to make a motion that Ms. Trammell came up. We shouldn't have commercial daily launching. I'm just telling you, that makes absolutely no sense to me. And yeah, there are numbers. You know, the first thing I'm going to, and I forgot to ask it during but I will ask it when this comes back. Did we do a cost study, okay, comparison? So did we go to Panama City Beach and do exactly what every hotel does, every business does? You know, if I'm selling a hamburger for $5 and my neighbor right next door is selling it for $2, then I probably am not going to get a lot of business unless I have a really great hamburger. So what does it cost in this area to launch boats or to rent ball fields? I'm not in necessarily quantity discount, because there are discounts built in for residents or for nonprofits or for whatever. But we've got to pay, it's not 100%. That's not what the resolution said. We've passed other resolutions that said we got to at least cover 50%, or we've got to cover a certain percentage. But we've got to cover our costs. And that's all I'm looking for us to do on this resolution, is let's cover our costs. And it's not just the person sitting out there. It's not just the greens, keepers or the lawn care folks. It's the people at the front desk who are actually selling the tickets or processing the stickers or what. And all those costs built up, if the staff thinks this is fair, I'm okay, but I'm not going to be in favor of the commercial daily launch, and I'll have that motion later.
All right, any other discussions on this motion? Johnny has a motion right now to take away the resident parking launch fee that we implemented a couple of councils ago.
Mr. Mayor, can I clarify just one item?
Please.
So that council is aware. The change on the commercial launch fee is a $5 increase. It's already in place. We've had that in place for at least four years. It was changed 4 years ago because
Just while we're on that topic, let's vote first. Let's get, let's,
So we're voting on Johnny's?
yeah.
The $20 is a one.
Can't hear you, there's no microphone on.
Sorry. The $20 fee is a one-time annual fee.
Yeah.
Right? It's not every launch. It's one-time annual fee. And we want to the motion is to take that to zero.
Correct. Calling the vote. All right, ayes have it. Residents don't pay $20 a year. All right, and then we're going to go to Teresa's motion.
Do I need to make that motion, Lance, or was there a way to, are we already, by state law or statute, we really can't change that? Am I correct? There's something else we can do?
Change what, sorry?
The $500 to $1,000 for the
You're talking about the
secondary.
beach tents?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I just emailed you that answer. So
Right.
no, state law says that we cannot raise the citation higher than $500. But what I was trying to say in the email is if we addressed it as a bigger issue with the commercial activities in residential areas, then the notice of violation and special magistrate process could make sense, but I will discuss it with Lance and our code compliance director and see if there is a way that would make sense to tackle that. I think there's a way. It's just where to divert the resources.
Why don't you just put that in a motion form
All right.
to have that direction?
I'd like to make a motion that staff look into a way to increase the continuous violations by rental companies on the beaches with their tents to incorporate a higher way of fee cost.
All right.
I think that applies to wave runner rentals. I think that applies in the statute, as I understand it. I'll second it.
Yep.
Okay, now I'll make my comment. I think that would apply to all the process that we're talking about, because what we can't raise above what the statute allows, but we could revoke their business license, or we could make it where they could not do business at all. And there are other avenues that I think legally that the lawyers should be able to tell us.
Yeah, so.
Outside the fining structure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We can't raise the citation, but we can use the notice of violation process. So if we took away their BTR, for example, and they continued to do it, then we would be able to use the notice of violation process for getting commercial activity in the residential area or commercial activity without the BTR, those kinds of things. But it would just require, it wouldn't be a one-time, you're in trouble, we're going to stop everything. It's going to take a little bit of a process. You got to catch them doing it, get the evidence to the special magistrate, and go through it.
Awesome. All right, Councilman Schmidt? Good. All right, Councilman Destin? No.
Yeah, I was just trying to clarify, this is taking place on private property at,
Noriega Point.
they're on the,
There on Noriega Point, there's like all the beach houses. Well, somebody has a VRBO or whatever you want to call it, and they rent it out as a wedding venue. Even though it's not really legally supposed to be that way. But then on top of that, you then have the same company that's putting the tents up. It's a destined business, putting the tents up, paying the $500 each day for being on the beach that they shouldn't be. And it's having no effect because they're now on 3 weekends in a row that this company has put these tents up.
That's why we passed the commercial events ordinance.
Yeah, because they're
Yes,
just
because
pushing the
now if they
$500 to the
advertise,
client.
we can catch them, we have in that ordinance, well, Lance and I will talk with the new code compliance director about it, but we have in that ordinance when they are advertising, and if they do that twice, then it's prima facie evidence that it's commercial activity ongoing in a residential area, and we can get them with the notice of violation process, which is more effective than the citation because it can lead to a fine of $500 a day continuously.
Thank you. So we should vote
All right,
on this.
Yep, enough. Seeing no further discussion?
Yes.
Ayes have it, so moved. All right.
Item 4E is the,
Yeah, I was going to say, Bagby's got a motion.
Nice try.
Yeah. He doesn't want commercial activity.
I'm going to make a motion that we not allow commercial launching at Joe's Bayou.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right.
There was a reason that commercial activities were allowed at the boat ramp. Since the boat ramp opened, there was been a fee. This is a change in that fee. You know, that silly notion about world's luckiest fishing village. We still have a few commercial fishing operations operating. Some of the guys that take the small bay boats, there is even one mullet fisherman left, one or two crabbers, and we thought it was appropriate in the world's luckiest fishing village to allow those fishermen to launch their boats, because there are two boat ramps now, the one at the foot of the bridge and this one. And so that's why that was in there. We did jack the rate up quite a lot on them to try to appease the folks who didn't want to see commercial activities there. I don't know, can we say no commercial activities with the exception of fishing? It's just that, who are we trying to get rid of? The folks that are maybe dropping off customers and picking up customers, and that's could also be regulated. If we'll move toward trying to regulate it without crippling what few of those fishermen are still in existence in this world's luckiest fishing village, then I'm willing to look at that. But if we're going to throw those guys out of a ramp that what few of them are left that they've used for 50 years, then, you know, Destin's sunk to a new low.
So we had the big old sign out there that says $500 fine for commercial activity, but then you can pay to have commercial activity? I'm just kind of, point of
I
clarification.
can clarify it.
Yeah, I'm just confused on this, please.
Let me clarify that, because it was about 4 years ago when this took place, and I can get you the exact date. I can tell you exactly who made the motion. But what we allowed in that motion was that they could launch. They cannot conduct any commercial activities on the park property.
No pickup commercial.
So it's strictly launch and recovery. That's all
That
they
makes
can
sense.
do. Yep.
All right, thank you for that. So, Councilman King.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I was gonna.
You gotta learn how to use the daggone buttons.
No, you're next.
No, we can't hear you. You gotta
You're
push
still
your
up.
button. I was gonna say the same thing as Mr. Destin. You know, that was my understanding, is that if you're gonna launch there, you've got to have somewhere else to pick up. You can't bring your clients to Joe's Bayou Boat Ramp and conduct business out of Joe's Bayou. So I understand the situation, and I understand not wanting commercial activity in there, but we are handcuffing a lot of the people who are, you know, doing what we've done and, you know, has been going on in this town for a long time. So I wouldn't support it myself. I appreciate the spirit of this motion, but I won't support it. Thank you.
First up, Councilman Schmidt.
I'll echo Mr. Destin and Mr. King, but I'll say in response to Ms. Trammell, you know, it's important that we regulate some of these things. I mean, Lance, you just said the intentions 4 years ago was to not have the operations out there, and it's, as we know, that's been happening. So just changing the fee structure, I don't agree with either, because that's not going to change anything. We shouldn't charge. We need to just do what we're supposed to be doing and not allowing the operations to happen out there. So I'm with these two guys as well.
All right, Councilman Bagby.
I tell you what, I'll withdraw my motion, but here's what I want in exchange there, City Manager. I want you to bring me the resolution that passed, because if it allows sea-doos, pontoon boats, anything other than fishing boats, I think, again, we're solving a problem for 4 or 5, but that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But if it allows commercial activity, even if they go, 2 lots down and pick up the people, then when this comes back before us, I will make the same motion, because we've got to send a message to the commercial, non-fishing folks. No, that's not your place. That is absolutely not your place to do any business, whether it's launching, picking up, transiting, I don't care. So I'll withdraw my motion for this meeting, but I want a copy of that resolution. I want to see exactly what it prohibits and what it allows. Thank you.
Before you jump in, I'm going to say something as well. Going to the Joe's Bayou workshops with DEP and everything, I made that very specific, because they were wondering why we wanted to move things around. I'm like, listen, we're not worried about where the bathroom is. We're worried how we can make a presence at Joe's Bayou so that we can deter and retract any of this non-warrantable, non-wanted commercial activity. So I think as we build this park back up, we can have things in place to where if there are reoccurring issues, we have the special magistrate and the evidence to do so. If we can get their tags as a boater and we can figure out exactly who they are and have the documentation to start finding them. So I think as we build this park and reimagine this park with DEP's help, I guess the state, then we hopefully can build it up with the infrastructure in place to where it's almost not even a man-needed way to catch these illegal operators. So I was just going to throw that out there, that I made that very clear to the designers and engineers on that property of just exactly what we were trying to do from a deter and retract standpoint of it all. Councilman Aber.
Thanks, Mayor. I feel like if the commercial fishermen are launching and leaving and going around to the harbor or wherever to pick up their fishing crew, they're not loading up on the Joe's Bayou piers like the pontoon boats and the jet ski rentals. I think this it's not really going to affect them. It's going to stop those pontoon boat guys that are loading out and they got 7 or 8 people with all their stuff and they're not related. You can tell they're not related. So I've realized we're trying to stop that kind of activity. So I don't think the fishermen that are launching there for a business purpose are really doing the business at the Joe's Bayou, which is what we're trying to preclude. Commercial activity, they're launching their boat and they're driving around and picking up their customers. Is that correct?
A commercial fisherman is required to have a commercial fishing sticker from the state of Florida on his vessel. And if you show up with that commercial fishing sticker on your vessel where commercial activities are prohibited, they're going to stop you. So, there's got to be a way to work it out because those aren't the guys we're trying to make sure don't come there. Maybe we can figure it out.
Well, that's what I was trying to figure out, if we could make the exception that we let our staff know at Joe's Bayou, we are not talking about the fishing. We're trying to preclude the commercial activity that are the rogue operators that are not following the rules and regulations, that are other pontoon boat owners and renters, here in the city. I don't think that we would be handcuffing our fishermen. Them having a commercial sticker on their trailer, well, we'd tell Wayne, that's not who we're targeting. He knows who we're targeting. It's the rogue people that are picking up, got to call them and say, where are you going to be? Okay, I'm going to be at Pier 5, hurry. It's like, okay, so what we're trying to do is prevent the commercial activity, not prevent the commercial fishing boats from launching to go around and pick up their people.
Yeah, I don't want to confuse the matter, but if any of those rogue operators actually were doing what they're supposed to do, they're supposed to have a commercial sticker on their little boat too. So if everybody got their commercial sticker.
Councilman Gao.
Mine are just questions for educational purposes for me alone, really, so I understand exactly what's happening here. So I heard Councilman Schmidt say that it's happening. It's an ongoing battle. It's something we're trying to fight. What are we doing to stop it right now? I mean, what's in place to prevent these people, the rogues, as you guys are referring to them, from doing what they're doing?
I guess I want to make sure, if you're talking about the rogue livery vessels, is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about the rogue businesses that are out there doing the pontoon runs to
The pontoons.
whatever they're doing.
Pontoon rentals.
That's what everybody here is concerned or spoke out about, and the jet skis or whatever we're referring to as rogue up
Right.
here.
So what staff is looking for right now, and I'm not saying they catch them all or anything like that, is they're looking for people launching and then groups of people coming from somewhere, either across the street or being dropped off in a minivan or whatever, and then loading onto this vessel, and it doesn't resemble a group of friends or family, and it's hard, but they are watching that, and code is monitoring it, and we will be monitoring it even more as we get into the 100 days of summer. But it's very hard to catch all those folks, and as Mr. Destin said, a lot of these operations are flying pleasure craft stickers instead of commercial stickers, and if you the guys that are working out at Joe's, if they see the Pleasure Craft sticker, I mean, they don't have a badge, so I mean, it's really hard for them to do much else at that point.
And that's kind of leading to my point, is we're monitoring, what's the recourse? I mean, what is our authority? Just give them a ticket and walk away, or what's the next step?
Well, if we're sure that it's a rogue operator, like renting pontoon boats, and then code can get out there and identify and document it, then yes, we can issue citations.
So that's basically the maximum penalty we can implement is a citation for something that's proven? I mean, is there any point where you can tow a vehicle and get the vehicle out of there, create some kind of disturbance? It makes it, I mean, if I'm making a couple $1,000s a day by doing it, $500 fine is not going to break my heart, you know? I mean, so I don't understand. If we're saying that we identify that it's an issue or a problem, the penalty has to outweigh the benefit, in my opinion. Otherwise, we're just up here spinning our wheels. So I'm trying to understand exactly what the maximum penalty is, or what we can possibly implement once it's identified to prevent it from happening, or deter people from ever wanting to happen.
Kim, is that where we could do a special magistrate? Say we had a camera up there. We have the proof that they've been here 5 days in a row
Yeah,
with
it's-
5 different people.
It's the same exact issue,
As the
really.
tent.
Yeah, so we could do it that way, and also we, I think, are monitoring the ads. Are we monitoring the ads? Okay, so that's another way, because they're constantly putting out the ads on social media, which we should be monitoring, and Lance says we are.
Can we restrict them from using Joe's Bayou?
Yeah,
So
I mean, there's a huge
you
lit
just restrict them
up,
from ever using it ever again. That seems like simple to me.
like right now, there's
that
a
allowed?
massive lit up.
You're just not allowed to launch anymore.
The question is, how do we identify them? 'Cause
Well,
most of these
once you
are-
have the proof, I'm saying.
Oh,
Once
yeah.
y'all have the proof, no
Absolute-
fine. You just
yeah.
say no more.
Absolutely. It
No legal.
it builds on itself.
I
So
think that's why the ads help, because obviously if you see the ad and then you see the boat do it, you know that it's commercial. But it is a little bit tricky because they have to put all that together. There's also a huge lit up sign at Joe's Bayou right now, if everybody has seen it, that says, no pontoons, $500 fine per passenger. I mean, we get one boat with 10 passengers and $500 each, the word might spread.
Okay, I was unaware it was per passenger. When we were speaking momentarily, everybody just said $500 fine. So it's a $500 fine per passenger?
we can do that, yes.
And then also implement in there that once they're identified as an offender, they can be banned from Joe's Bayou permanently?
So the code system is set up as a progressive system, so the fines would increase to the maximum, and then it would go to the magistrate.
Okay. So at this point, I mean, what do we do? Is there a special committee that has to review what we're talking about here to see if it's viable? Or is it something that we do and say, okay, we obviously identified it's an issue, it's affecting our residents, let's make a motion now to implement $500 per person, and if they do it again, if they're caught doing it, we can also ban them from Joe's Bayou?
I think if council would allow me to work with our new code compliance director, I think we can get this done without that motion. I mean, it's already allowed for in the state statute, and we can work with him, and you want the mic?
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Let me have him come up real quick.
I need to stretch my legs anyways. How we doing?
Well, I want to learn.
Sitting here listening to the concerns and the issues, obviously very important to everybody. Again, only been here a week, so just off the top of my head, why can't we, and again, I'm just throwing it out there, install a camera system seeing the launch area, and then, I mean, I could have a remote camera or video set up in my office or, in the code department, that if our code officers aren't catching me in the act, when we go back and review it or we get a complaint on it, then we've got the whole number. We can, then do some after, incident investigation and then still submit the violation.
Boom.
That's just an idea.
Thank you. Where have you been? Welcome. Counselor Schmidt, you got anything?
I think my learning experience is over. Like I said, I just want to try to figure out what we need to do to move forward.
The only other thing I was going to add for Crystal and the staff, because I love the schedule of fees and all these things, but Mr. Bagby mentioned something about the user costs and the charges that we do. And Crystal, you mentioned that as well. And I would ask that you guys look at like the facility rentals for the parks, Clement Taylor, Calhoun, Destin Elementary, because you have a charge plus a cleaning fee. And I'm pretty sure our park attendants take the garbage out at the park regardless. And I'm not sure if y'all have ever rented any of these facilities, but for example, when I held like a birthday party, you got to pay $100 to go use the table at Leonard Destin, for example. So if I'm going to have 10 kids come out there, I'm going to pay $100 to use it. 50 of that is a fee, and 50 of it's a cleaning fee, right? At another park, it's a $25 cleaning fee. So I think there's some things that can maybe be looked at in some of these cleaning fees and fees that, to me, don't make much sense. They don't add up correctly for residents or non-residents, for anybody. Are we there to make money off of the cleaning fee? Or is it to be the cost, right? Because if they're already there taking the trash out, what else are they cleaning? And I've had to pay those. So like using community center, you got to pay a lot of money to use the community center. I get it, you got to pay for staff, but I think we should look at some of these.
We're paying for those with our taxes.
Right, as a citizen, I mean, I'm already paying for, yeah, I agree, sir, but, right, sorry. But just for discussion, I mean, I would really appreciate you guys when you're looking at these in the next round or whatever of this plus this, just, let's try to look at it more closer for people, especially if you're trying to you don't want to pay a lot of money to go to a skating rink. You're hoping to go to a park and you're still out $100+ to go to a park. So I would hope that we can look at those things. Thank you.
All right, Lance, moving on.
All right. So we got item 4E is the annual budget calendar, and this is just for council to know and have input on if they disagree with any of the dates. But this is to put together and build our fiscal 2024 budget. And we're already in that budget season, believe it or not, even though we don't start that budget until October 1st. So we were looking for your approval on this calendar so we can move forward, block off these dates, and block off the facilities we'll need to run these workshops.
All right. Take it away.
And if you don't mind,
No, we don't have any questions.
What's that, Crystal?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, this year is kind of special because we're having only one regular council meeting in July. That's July 17th. That's the only meeting before the state deadline of August 4th, where I have to certify the millage rate to the property appraiser. So at the July 17th meeting, you will be voting and setting your millage rate. So after that meeting, you can go down, but you cannot go up. So that's why we also have set workshop number 2, which will be comprehensive, including capital as well as operating, for the week before on July 11th to give us time to prepare your motion.
Okay, I move to approve the FY 2024 budget calendar and to set the budget and millage adoption public hearing number 1 for September 7th, 2023 at 6 p.m. in the regular council chambers at 4100 Indian Bayou Trail.
Second.
Further discussion? Calling the vote. Ayes have it, so moved. All right, the best news of the night.
All right, I am happy to introduce Mr. Troy Williams, who you got to hear from earlier. He's our new code compliance director, and he is going to take the microphone just for a few minutes and introduce himself.
Yeah, welcome. Push the button, it'll turn red. Floor is yours. Yeah,
Mayor Wagner,
green.
distinguished council members. Was there the report that I sent, is that? Okay, some of this you may be familiar with, but it's, again, I've been here a week. Happy to be here, thankful to be here, jumping in feet first. Want to let you know that I'm, all in on Destin. So again, Destin is, with water, 7.6 square miles. I've given you the census and data population. As you can see, Destin is growing not only in residents, but also in visitors. Our code compliant staffing has experienced some, for lack of a better word, instability. You can see the amount of people that have been in or through the department in the last few years. And our current staffing levels, we have 2 interviews this week. Excluding the one officer who's been with us about 5.5 years, kind of an outlier, the average experience in our department in code is 0.8 years. If you throw the other office in there, it's 1.4 years. So I'll only say that to say we've got a young department, maybe not young in age, but learning the job as we go. Everyone's committed to working as a team and getting stuff done for the city of Destin. Moving on, you can see the self-initiated and reported cases from the community. In 2021, 1,965, or an average 162 per month. In the year 2022, 3461, or an average of 288 per month. And I'll tell you, that's a pretty good amount given the turnover that the department was having. This year alone, through March, we're at 1,246 cases, or 415 average per month, on pace for nearly 5,000. So your code officers, they are out there, they're doing the job, they're responding to these calls. Just some other important bits of information, again, show you what they're having to deal with. Your short-term rentals, there are approximately 900 out there. I'm sure you're all aware of this. Your livery vessels, approximately 430. And I spoke with Waste Management today. They have 5,329 residential accounts, and if you have a trash can and a recycle can, that's over 10,000 cans that we could potentially get called upon that, there's some issue with. So I say all this to say that there's just a lot that the officers will respond to, and we don't have a full staff or an inexperienced staff or young staff. I mean, they're working hard, and we're going to get it done for you. I've listed some of my short-term and long-term goals, increased training, and there's a lot of free stuff out there, obtain some needed equipment, prioritization of calls. I think that's important. I just mentioned, the garbage cans, and they're important. We just had a picture sent to us where there were probably 20 or 25 trash bags laying on the ground in front of somebody's residence. That's a problem. Our prioritization should be life safety issues, hazardous issues, blocking of traffic, and, we work our way down. Now, obviously, trash cans are important, but, given the first 4 that I mentioned, they kind of fall down the chain there a little bit. We eventually, for long-term, want to work on accreditation, and again, with the city growing and what we're responding to, need to talk about adding some either part-timers or additional staff down the road. Just really want to touch on Joe's Bayou real quick. I know there's a lot of discussion on it. I'm on it. We're going to talk, and we're going to get it figured out. Does anybody have any questions of me?
Yeah, go on. I don't have anyone on the list.
Sure. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Glad you were here.
Thank you.
Glad you came tonight as well. And thank you very much for already putting something together like this.
Absolutely.
I'm sure there's been a lot of things in the past or future or whatever, different comments and things. So I don't know what you have to follow or what you don't have to follow in regards to what we've asked of other past directors, but I will ask or say that, communication and information from the Code Compliance Department, we've asked for that to be presented to us. So in some form or fashion in the near future,
Sure.
I would love to continue seeing stuff from you
Absolutely.
guys. So I really appreciate it. Like you said, you jumped in with your feet first, and I think you know all the things that we got going on around here. We have a well-written LDC that we're also rewriting.
Sure.
And we have a lot of issues in the city. We talk about prioritization of things, and I think the LDC speaks for itself and how we have to do certain stuff. And
Sure.
so I hope that we continue to be proactive in compliance and to make the city of Destin a great place for the number 1, residents, number 2, the businesses, and number 3, the visitors. And I hope that with your leadership and your training and your experience that you will be able to see that happen, and I feel like that you will be able to. So I appreciate you taking this job and being here. So thank you.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you.
Awesome. Councilwoman Abear.
I won't pontificate, but basically, thank you. You are a true asset to our city. Your prior, marine experience, having that discipline, helping that helps our code compliance department. I'm really glad that you came. I understand we almost got you a while back. Now we got you. So I think it's going to be a good thing for the city, and I know that we're looking forward to you helping us help our citizens and our visitors, businesses do well with your leadership. So thanks and welcome. Appreciate it.
One last thing, I invite you, if anybody would like to spend an hour or two doing a ride-along with our code officers just to see what they respond to. Obviously, you see it as council people and the residents call, but if you want to go out there with one of our officers, you're more than welcome to come. The invitation's out there for you.
I think you're the first one who invited us to do that, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Other than that, I'm just going to stress, and I don't want to speak out of turn for the council, but as far as anything that you need, I am very confident we will give you anything and everything within reason.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Just a few quick announcements. We've got new signage up at Captain Royal Melvin Heritage Park and is being very well received by the community. Kind of mimics the old billboard on the other side of the bridge. So eventually will be, I believe, a great picture opportunity for many of the visitors to the Destin area and maybe a few residents. Photo ops, right?
Oh, real quick, you also added on there the footprints, Nivelo Trace. That wasn't on the original one that was put out, so please speak to that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so the Leave No Trace is something that we adopted a few years back, and it will be promoted at our new park as well, so we're looking forward to that. Hurricane season is only a few weeks away, and we've been releasing information about that. We have some one-on-one flood protection consultations available with the Department of Public Works, so reach out to Michael and his crew if you would like to take part in that. We've got the city's annual Arbor Day celebration on Friday, April the 28th at Leonard Destin Park. That will be at 10 a.m. And we have Earth Day celebration the next day. It's a beach cleanup, Saturday, April the 29th from 8 to 10. And those wanting to volunteer can go to the city's Facebook or Instagram accounts to register. In an effort to continuously improve the customer experience, the Community Development Department is launching a new interactive land use and zoning information platform on April the 24th for use by the public. And I got to play with this. Louis let me play with it early. It's an interactive map, and I hope that you all will take advantage of this. This facility will be on the city's website and will provide general development information and specific zoning requirements for any address in the city. So that's a big step. So thank you, Louis. We also have, effective April the 24th, the department will be posting drafts of Article 3 of the LDC on the city's website for public review and comment. So we look forward to hearing from the public on those. And finally, as this will be Webb Warren's final council meeting, I would like to thank him for his 18 years of service and his dedication to Team Destin, of which I got to be with him all 18 years. And I wish him the very best of luck on his new adventure and hope that he will not be a stranger. So thank you very much for your service, Webb.
If I may, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And Destin is a very special place. It's a wonderful community. I know that Destin has a great future, and I've always been very proud to be part of Team Destin. You have a good team here. We have a good council, we have good leadership, and we've made some great hires and have a great team here, and I appreciate that. I always feel like I'll be part of the team here. And I want to thank you for the experience and the opportunities I've had for the last 18 years. But most of all, I want to thank you for the memories. It's been an experience of a lifetime, and I thank you for being a part of that. Thank you.
That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. All right, Kyle, public hearings.
All right, first we have item 5A. This is William F. Davis Construction on behalf of Seaside Properties. It's made an application of Harbor and Waterways Board for City Council review of the construction of a single-family residential marine construction at 523 Noriega Road. At this time, if any member of the applicant's team who plans on testifying, any member of staff who plans on testifying, and any member of the public who plans on testifying, can please just stand and raise your right hand. I'll swear you in. Do we have anyone from staff testifying tonight? Noel, looks like you're sole. All right. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide tonight is the truth? All right, thank you, guys. And then I think we've already done this for this project since this was a continued matter. But again, let's go through the ex parte communication, starting with Kevin.
I've had none.
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 All right, thank you, council, and we'll go down to Ms. Kopp.
Thanks, Kyle. I'd just like to enter the staff report dated April 13th into the record with the exhibits that are 1 through 8, which are the city's documents. And then I'm just noting for the record that 9, 10, and 11 were provided by the applicant, so we are not submitting those as part of our record.
And do you have any objection to those entering into the record?
I actually would request that they be included into the record.
Okay.
All right, seeing that this is a public hearing at this time, if anyone is here from the public to speak, you have 3 minutes, just like before. And I will just go through my left to right. Anyone here from the public comments on this issue specifically? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion of this.
And turn it to the applicant.
Yep, go ahead. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Travis Morrock on behalf of the property owner Seaside Destin Properties LLC. Address 151 West Main Street, Suite 200, Pensacola, Florida 32502. I'm also joined here by the principal members of Seaside Destin Properties LLC, Mr. Robert and Elizabeth Champagne. They're here along with their friends and family in support of the approval of this project. As the council is aware, we were here previously in March. It got continued to the council meeting here today. So I won't belabor too many of the points. However, I do want to address some of the items that were previously discussed, along with addressing some of the items that were addressed after the last council meeting that resolves many of the concerns that were expressed by the council members here today. As set forth in the staff report, this concerns a single-family marina residential construction at 523 Noriega Road in Destin. The proposed marine construction project, it satisfies all the requirements of the Destin Land Development Code. In particular, it satisfies 11.0501A, 11.0501B, 11.0501F, 11.0501G, and 11.0501M, 11.0501N, and 11.0501S. In addition to satisfying all the requirements of the Land Development Code, it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. It's consistent with Comprehensive Plan Goal 6-1, 6-1.5, 6-1.5.5. It enhances the quality of life. There's no anticipated effect on the budget, and there's no anticipated effect on the level of service. The staff, the City of Destin staff has confirmed that it complies with all the requirements in the Land Development Code. I'd also like to address some of the concerns that were expressed by the council members at the last meeting. In particular, there was significant discussion about the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the role in this dock construction project, along with the requirements by the state. After the prior council meeting, Ms. Kopp and I independently have reached out to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. Ms. Kopp verified with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. It's included in the staff agenda, and there's an email from Adrian Childers with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection confirming that the dock project is going to be determined as a repair and replacement which means it's exempt under Rule 62-330.0515D of the Florida Administrative Code. So I know you're looking at me, what does that mean? It means from a regulatory standpoint, it's exempt. So the Florida Department of Environmental Protection has confirmed that with both myself, which that email has been provided, and along with Ms. Kopp, the land use attorney. Since it is regulatory exempt, there was some misinformation being provided by some concerned citizens at the last meeting. I want to clarify, what does the regulatory exemption mean? It means that obtaining a letter of consent or approval from an adjacent property owner is not required. That has been confirmed by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and it is also included in the emails that were submitted prior to today. There is a submerged land lease will be required. We've been actively working with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and we've secured approval that they're going to be issuing a temporary use agreement to go ahead until the submerged land lease is finalized. The other discussion was in regards to the project valuation. There was discussion as to whether the project valuation consisted of the contract price, or did it consist of just the labor and materials? After the last council meeting, I confirmed with Ms. Noelle Bell, she's the building official for the city of Destin, that the project valuation is only based on cost of construction, which is the labor and materials, not overhead profit or administrative cost. Mr. Shackley with William F. Davis Construction is here to testify that $69,000, which was the amount listed on the application, is consistent with the cost for the labor and the materials as Ms. Bell has provided. That's required to be listed on the application. In addition, in support of the project, I included various aerial photos of both the subject property along with the adjoining properties. As the council may recall, the adjacent property owners came to testify that it caused an obstruction of their view, the dock construction. As you can see on those aerial maps and the photos that were provided to the council, both of the adjacent property owners have more extensive and intrusive dock construction that greatly exceeds the proposed dock construction here. The dock construction here is simply a reconstruction of what has always existed. It's the exact same footprint, and when you're looking at it, it's night and day comparing to what is sitting on both sides of this property. So to me, it's a little bit, tongue-in-cheek for them to come up here and complain about, a reconstruction of a dock impacting their view when they built these monstrosities that are next door, that are within 10 feet of the riparian line. I say all this from a legal basis, fully comply with the Land Development Code. There's no legal basis to deny it. It's not a discretionary act. It's an objective standard. The City of Destin staff has confirmed that all requirements of the Land Development Code have been satisfied and that issuance of a permit is proper. But I want to include that aerial map just as a practical matter that Mr. and Mrs. Champagne testified previously. This is a single-family residential dock. They're building it so that they can spend time with their friends and their family. Testified their grandkids want to see the fireworks over the harbor. From a practical matter, it's not an equitable thing, it's not the fair thing, and it's certainly not the neighborly thing to allow two adjacent property owners to build those type of docks, and then because they're complaining now against their neighbor that's trying to reconstruct a very small dock. It's not a fair thing, and that's just a practical matter. But I believe it should be brought to this council's attention that it's not. This is a very small dock compared to what's being built next door, what's already been built. I also have here to testify Mr. Keith Johnson, who's an environmental scientist. If I can call him to the stand. Yeah, I'd like to call him to stand.
Thank you. Yep.
Hello, my name is Keith Johnson. I'm one of the founding partners with Wetland Sciences. We're an environmental consulting firm based in Pensacola, Florida at 3308 Gulf Beach Highway, Pensacola, Florida 32507. Been practicing in this field for about 27 years. I've permitted literally thousands of marine structures for private individuals, for municipalities, and for local governments. It includes boat ramps, artificial reefs, private docks, you name it. We've been involved in it in some capacity over these years. I'm here really to back up the attorney, the legal counsel for the applicant. If you have any questions with respect to environmental resource permitting, particularly pertaining to the state of Florida, both from a regulatory standpoint and from a proprietary standpoint, be happy to answer any questions you may have with regards to the dock and its ability to, or its compliance with state rules and statutes. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. King.
I move that the city council approve the single-family marine construction project located at 523 Noriega Road, subject to the following conditions. 1, the submittal of FDEP approval or exemption for the expansion of the dock. 2, payment of the net positive environmental benefit per LDC section 110502 in to the Community Development Department before the stop work order is released, and approval to proceed with commencement of work. 3, resubmittal of both the site plans and structural plans to the permit showing no discrepancy in square footage before the stop work order is released. 4, a copy of the FDUP approved sovereign submerged land lease shall be required to be provided prior to final approval and release of stop work order on the building permit.
Second.
Motion and a second. I'll open up the discussions. Mr. King, do you have anything else?
Not at this moment.
All right. Councilman Schmidt.
Not right now. I see what we got here, and staff checked the boxes, and a lot of evidence was provided, and it seems like this should be passed.
All right. Councilman Guile.
I have no issues. I just want to make sure that, I don't know if it can just be on the record or if it needs to be in the DO. And I realize it's already in the code compliance or ordinance, but we seem to have an issue with people that are taking residential applications and use them for commercial usage, especially on Gulf Shore Drive in that area. So the only thing I want to make sure is that it's either on the record or in the DO that non-residential use is prohibited, and everybody is aware it is subject to code enforcement.
Yeah, there's not actually a DO, but we can add that to the conditions in the motion if you want to. I will say it's already prohibited under the code, but you can make it another condition if you'd like.
Yes, but it was also, there's a residence on Gulf Shore Drive that it was in there.
I said you can add it as a condition.
Yeah, so I just
I'm
want to
just saying
make
there's
sure.
not a DO. So it'll be.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, we can add that condition.
Second? All right, it's added. All right, Councilman Bagby?
Yeah, I have a question for the applicant or the contractor. Probably the contractor's going to know the answer.
Mr. Shackley, if you'd come up to the podium.
Okay. Were you the contractor that did the demolition on the old?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how much was that? What was the value of that work?
I don't have that. I've got the figures for the material and labor for the new construction.
Okay, what's the figures for the material and labor for the new construction?
$45,612 for material, $10,500 for labor. Material's all been purchased, minus about $8,500 still allotted for spindles, handrails, and incidentals.
Okay.
There's about a week and a half to 2 weeks left in labor to finish the project. But everything else is either on-site or at one of our laid-out
So what would all that total up to, the spindles, everything? What's your
Less than
estimate?
the 80, there's $8,500 left, so the only thing we're missing is basically spindles, running into an issue, having to pick up stuff, so it'll actually eventually be less than what we permitted for. We always try to shoot high, we always try to forecast high, so it's not adding more later.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
So my issue, you can
No.
sit down, you've given me all the information I need. My issue, I'm
not against, approving this. My issue was, and I think we had, when the public spoke last time, they're following the rules. Well, no, they're not following the rules, and that's what my issue is. So my issue is, we've discovered in the last month that now there's a net positive environmental benefit that needs to be paid. We've learned that there is a submerged land lease that needs to be gotten, right? And you're going to get all this stuff, you're
Yeah.
going to pay that, you're going to do, I'm not going to hold you up on that, and I probably won't hold you up. I'm not voting for it because the demolition costs are also included in construction costs. And so you've spent $69,000 or within $8,500 of it, and I will ask Ms. Bell, is the demolition cost just the materials and the labor to take the 24 pilings out, all the boards, all the cross members? Is that materials and labor part of that cost that should be paid?
Yes, it is.
And that would put you over the $69,000. I just want you to follow the rules, guys. I don't care how big you build it, as long as it's allowed by the code, as long as it's allowed by the state, but you're not following the rules, and I'm not going to vote for it again tonight for that reason.
Mr. Shackley, you can come up here.
The materials and labor, the labor to do the demolition.
No, you said you had no figures for the
I don't have
demolition.
I can't
You
tell
only have
how
the
much of
figures for the
demolition
construction.
was total labor.
I'm not
No,
going to argue with
you're-
you.
you're
I'm not going to
misquoting
argue
me.
with you.
You're not
Thank you,
arguing,
sir.
you're misquoting me is what you're doing. The 10,000, whatever it was labor for demolition, for site, setting everything up, for building it. I can't tell you how much of the 10,000 was specifically demolition and how much of the 10,000, whatever the figure was specifically new construction. I don't have that figure. I have total labor and total materials. So the labor was included. The demolition was included in the labor.
So the cost, so your total costs include the demolition to
Correct.
start?
Correct. I
think there
can't
was
tell
maybe
you
a
how much-
miscommunication.
Yeah, I can't split it up, like 2,000 was demolition and 8,000 whatever was new construction, but all the labor from the time they started setting batters, pulling old piles, moving stuff in, framing, everything is the $10,000, or whatever the figure was.
So how long you been working on this project?
With the delay,
Mm-hmm.
like total, I mean, it's been 5 months now? Yeah, 5 weeks total.
5 weeks.
With,
Okay.
with downtime, with pulling off so from like actual hours, I don't, we were there for 5 weeks before it was shut down, including Thanksgiving, any other, waiting for piles. So, we'll have 2 or 3 projects going on Holiday Isle. So we're waiting for piles. When they go to put in piles somewhere else, it'll be 5 weeks basically from A to B.
So
And then-
25 days.
Sir?
25 days. And you say the labor cost is included in the 2 weeks that
Correct.
still has, or how many other days still has to be done?
Correct. The plywood's already there, the handrail's already there, some of the plywood's already up.
And how
So
many
it's
folks working on it?
3.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, Councilwoman Abear.
Well, that was kind of what my questions were, was the financial cost of what your labor was, as well as the 5 weeks of time, and it kind of just answered, Mr. Bagby asked the same questions, so it seems like there's probably a lot of money that is not really being accounted for, so the fees and what's required, I don't know if we've really been paid for what is really come out to it, so.
And just to, I'm sorry, can I?
Go ahead, yes, sir.
And just to clarify, there's no hiding that.
You're trying to address my question. I've got all the answer I need. I really appreciate it.
Councilman Schmidt?
Thank you. For staff, what do we do when we review the permitting process? This might be for Noel, but how do we review dollar amounts on a permit application? What's the process for approving a permit or giving a permit on that dollar amount? How does that work? I mean, you're the building of, so, yeah, how?
Typically, I mean, I just do comparables for the same type construction.
So you kind of take your years of expertise in your position, and you see somebody fills a permit request and they put $100,000, you don't have like a table, there's nothing like measurable, you're just kind of using your knowledge, expertise, and history?
Not for that type of construction. I mean, we have tables for brand-new construction.
Right,
But for this.
repairs, renovations, docks, all these things.
Yeah.
I mean, how long have you been with us?
With the building division, I've been in the building division for 18 years.
Okay. I've recently got an email about the amazing work that you and others in y'all's department do, so I concur with all that. I mean, I feel like if we scrutinized every single permit request that came in for the dollar amount to verify if that dollar amount is the exact amount, we're in the wrong business here. I'm assuming staff, Mr. Johnston and Lewis, put people in positions to do the job they're supposed to do and doing it the correct way. I'm not here to judge this gentleman and the prices that he's charging his customers. He can charge whatever he wants to charge. And if it cost him that much to do that project, that's what it cost him. Labor in Rosemary Beach or on 30A or wherever else might be one thing. His labor might be different. I don't know. It's his choice. He's the owner or the manager. It's up to him. He filled out the application. Y'all approve it. You go through the steps. It looks good. I'm not going to sit here and scrutinize somebody about a dollar amount. That's his dollar amount. That's the cost of it. So, I mean, that's each of our opinions. But I think it's fine. I mean, because if we're going to do that for this, we better start doing that for everybody then and figure out having y'all put a table together or something like that so we can start doing this more accurately. But I think that's going too far. So I think this is good to go. Thank you.
All right, Councilman King.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, and I understand where Mr. Bagby's coming from. It's not for me to say who's charging what for labor and this and that. And my main concern is, and thank you for providing us with the drone photos. I can see what I can see from Google Maps and Landglide and the property appraiser site, but seeing it live paints a whole new picture. It's like my biggest frustration in this town is how unneighborly we are. We've been given.
All right, please stop.
No, keep it going. I like that. No, I'm kidding. That we have this wonderful piece of God's creation that we get to do what we want with, and then we're going to have people up here tell us what we can and can't do. While this thing is Thomas the Train compared to the rest of these docks. So I would just like to say I couldn't support this anymore. So I'm happy to support this. I think it's going to be great. Thank you.
Councilman Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. We're conducting this as a quasi-judicial hearing. In quasi-judicial hearings, you're supposed to rely on expert testimony. As we noticed, some folks got up and put their hands up. Those were our experts. That's one of our experts right back there. As long as she says that this is an appropriate amount, then the question's done as far as I'm concerned. We are not here to question our experts. We're not even here to be involved in what fees are charged. And so I tend to see that there's nothing to hang our hat on to deny this permit. And without that, then we would be taking steps that were unwise.
Councilwoman Neighbor.
Yeah, just one final thought. I have to agree with Mr. King, looking at the pictures on how this dock is set so much further back than the other two on either side of him. I don't understand how the view could be blocked. So, anyway, pictures.
You got anything else? Nope. All right. Seeing no further discussion, I'm going to call the vote. All right. Ayes have it. So moved. Got your dock. All right, Cal.
Thanks.
Keep on swinging.
Thanks, Mayor. Next, we have the item 5B. This is the first reading of ordinance number 2304.
Please leave quietly if you're
CC.
leaving the chambers.
An ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, providing for amendments to the Code of Ordinances to establish a code compliance lien reduction application process and criteria for reduction of code compliance liens, amending Chapter 14 of Fences and Miscellaneous Provisions, creating Section 14-86, application to City Council for reduction of existing code compliance lien, creating Section 14-87, required criteria for reduction of existing code compliance lien, providing for findings of fact, providing for incorporation into the Code of Ordinances, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date, and this is a public hearing.
All right, seeing that it's a public hearing at this time, if anyone from the public wants to make comments on this specific issue, this is your time to do so. Seeing none, Councilwoman Aber.
I move to approve ordinance 2304 CC on first reading and direct city clerk to advertise for second reading.
All right, have a motion. Do I hear a second? Second. The second, I have some discussion. First, Council, you have anything else?
Nope.
All right, Councilmember Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just have one issue with this. When you don't allow variances for dock links, the situation almost always is that the property that applies for the variance is in...
This is a different one, I think. That's the next one. That's the next.
Okay, are we on...
This is about lien reductions.
5B.
Sorry.
No, I apologize.
We see what he wants to do. All right. Any further discussion then? Sorry about that. All right.
I think you know where that's going, Mayor?
I have a hunch, but I don't want to assume much. All right, calling the vote for 5B. I have it so moved. All right. Kyle.
Next, we have what Dewey was hoping we were getting to. Item 5C, this is the first reading of ordinance number 2305 LC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, providing for amendments to the Land Development Code, amending sections 11.05.01 marina siting, to prohibit the granting of variances to the maximum dock length set forth therein, providing for findings of fact, providing for incorporation into the Land Development Code, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date, and this is a public hearing.
Seeing that this is a public hearing, at this time, if anyone from the public is here to speak on this matter, this is your time to do so. Seeing none, I'll close the public comments. Entertain a motion at this time.
I move to approve ordinance 2305 LC on first reading, forward it to the local planning agency for a formal recommendation, and then advertise the ordinance for second reading at City Council after the LPA meeting.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
The second, any further discussions? Councilmember Destin.
Where I left off, the problem is that most of the folks who apply for these variances to extend it have property that fronts very shallow water. So if they can't extend the dock, they're going to be compelled to dredge. And do we really think that dredging is a better alternative than to extend the dock? Because DEP will give them a dredge permit. That's what they do if you are in shallow water, or if you're in an area where there's grass, what they let you do is destroy that grass as long as you plant some grass over here somewhere else. So I'm not sure from an environmental point of view that this is an improvement to say you can't put your dock out a little farther because we don't want you to. And in most cases, especially along the bay, it doesn't apply to the same degree anyway. So I just hate to box ourselves in. If everybody wants to make the decision that that's the way to do it, we'll let people who are in shallow water just dredge channels into their docks. I just don't think it's to cut the possibility that we can put a dock a little farther out and not do the dredging in what might be sensitive areas near the shoreline is a good way to go. I hate to just cut off that alternative altogether.
All right. Councilman King?
Thank you, sir. It was brought to my attention that this could potentially affect, does this affect dock repair as far as, let's say there's a 220-foot long dock that gets, is torn to pieces by a hurricane or whatever act of God?
It wouldn't affect existing docks unless more than 50% of it was destroyed. What?
Oh, I thought Kevin was saying something. Go ahead, I'm
No,
sorry.
it shouldn't affect existing docks. They should be able to be built back the way they were. If they're completely destroyed and they had a variance in the first place, then they might not be, then they'd be affected if they were completely taken out. But I would say to Councilmember Destin's point, and maybe to yours, we can put in exceptions if you want to, or we could change the criteria just for variances for docks to say that in the event that you have shallow water and define that somehow, if a dredge would be required, then we would give you the variance. I mean, docks don't have to have the same variance criteria as a setback and everything else.
And my question would be, wouldn't we be exactly where we are right now?
No, we could modify it to limit when you can get a variance.
I'm not sure what the criteria is to apply for a variance now in the situation of a dock. The only one I've seen ever used was that it was too shallow and we want to get out past the shallow.
That's what they've used for the two we've seen recently, but the code doesn't limit it to that.
Okay, well, then maybe you have a good compromise for us there.
I can come back to it, revise it and come back.
I'll withhold the motion, and we'll let you revise it, bring it back to the next meeting.
Yeah, I'll keep going with discussion though.
Okay, I think if you all do make that motion, if you're okay with it, I'd probably just go to LPA first and get their recommendation too, and then come back.
Okay. Councilman Schmidt?
Well, Mr. Destin, in regards to the DEP allowing you to dredge if there's no variance, I imagine they go through a process to approve the dredging.
Oh, they do, but I would challenge you to find one that they denied.
She pointed, so I just pointed the.
They almost always approve them. Like
I mean,
say,
that's
you
the
may have to
Department
go-
of Environmental Protection, right? I
Right,
mean,
yep, you may have to go plant some grass somewhere else, and you may have to do this and do that, but they don't completely deny them very often. Matter of fact, I don't recall one we.
But if the DEP is saying it's okay to dredge, why would we not be okay with it? Just the environmental
Well,
aspect.
I guess we might have an opinion about the environmental health of our own
Yeah.
town.
Yeah. I mean, I guess my thought is that from what we've learned recently is the DEP says you don't have, if there's a variance option, you can't dredge? Is that what we learned recently? That if a city or if we had a variance option, which we currently do, then they don't have to dredge or?
If there is a variance option, the way I understand it is, they don't want to do the dredge unless there's no other options for the applicant. So if there is a variance option, they will not authorize the dredge.
Right.
Their major goal is to protect the shoreline, especially the sensitive areas.
Right. I mean, would we not potentially be able to achieve maybe some people's goals of this next item that we're about to do, where we're going to bring the variance option to the council instead of the Board of Adjustments? We would have the final approval of that variance request of a dock right here.
The direction of this motion is to take a variance off the table, is it
Right.
not?
It is.
And so if we took it off the table, then we couldn't consider it either.
I'm with you. I'm just saying by potentially saying, table this, whatever, by doing the next one, the next ordinance, the variance option would still stay, but we, or a council, would have the approval rights of said variance request, and you'd still be able to have the discussion up here rather than the Board of
Right.
Adjustments, which is why the next thing is coming, I believe.
And if you're laboring on an assumption that would pass, for sure,
Right.
then that's the correct course.
Right.
But I like Kim's idea to modify under what circumstances you can apply for a variance and try to narrow that down.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. I guess my only concern with that is you're putting modifications or reasons. Well, now you have to have the justification for that. Prove that justification that it was shallow. Well, who proves that? Who says it was too shallow? Well, they get a survey and they get a report. That's what Mr. Abadi had. He had that report, and so I mean, I'm happy to see what they can possibly bring as a modification, but I still feel like we'll have similar questions even after the fact of we're still at the same spot where we were today of now, a person brings in a justification for a variance and meet the requirements, we can check the box, they get their variance, so we might not actually solve it possibly, so I don't know, it's something to think about, but.
First up, Councilwoman Abear.
No, I don't have anything.
All right. Bagby?
Yeah, so I guess I need y'all to explain to me, because my understanding why we're doing this is on the harbor, we didn't want more than 20% on either side. So that's 40% on either side, so that still leaves 60% out by the channel, so we can, even though the harbor capacity study is going to tell us we got way too many boats, but that still leaves enough water for boats to navigate in and out. So I wouldn't think, although we just did, which started this, grant a variance in the harbor, because we wouldn't want any out more than 200, or out more than 20%. And then on the bay, 200 feet, I can't imagine that somebody would need a dock more than 200 feet. Maybe if there's there are some commercial ones out there on the bay, but I think most of them have been built, probably not. I'm probably missing a lot somewhere or two lots, but, so I'm just trying to figure out why.
We just did one not too long ago, Mr.
Yeah, I
Buckingham.
know, but that's already approved. I'm trying to think of ones that, could be built that would need to be more than 200 feet. And Sandy has one, of course she does. Okay. I still, I'm okay with this, but if you want to bring it back to where we can approve some we can change it anytime we want to, right? I mean, if we could pass this, it could come back from the LPA, and we could say, when it came back from the LPA, no, we don't like what you said, here's what it's going to be. So I'm going to support the motion tonight, and then let's see what it comes back.
All right, Councilman King.
I was just going to touch on a few things that some other folks said. I think it's a situational thing. I don't think the Destin Harbor is created equal. I don't think the Destin Harbor and the Choctawhatchee Bay are created equal. I think they're different situations for navigation, and I have to agree a little bit with what Mr. Destin said, but at the same time, I agree with Kevin too as far as the Department of Environmental Protection. I feel like they're going to do what it takes to protect the environment. So now I don't think that you get where I'm going. I mean, it's a little bit, just a little bit torn, but I think that there are differences in, the different waterways.
Well, this motion is just to send it to.
Mike.
LPA, let LPA
Yep.
do their job.
I don't have a problem with that. See if they can come up with
Mike. Say it again.
All right, call on the vote. Let them vote, let them vote.
He needs a battery.
Yeah, I apologize. Just curious. I mean, we're approving an ordinance, and then we're forwarding it to the LPA. Is that backwards?
My understanding is we are not approving the ordinance.
Oh, sorry, what was the motion? That's why I was even more confused, so I apologize.
I'm going to modify the ordinance to change the criteria for dock variances, and then it will go to LPA for a recommendation, and then back to you for first and second reading, so you can still make a decision on it. So we're changing it.
Can you repeat that one more time for me? I apologize.
Yeah, I'm going to modify the ordinance. I'm going to change the criteria just for dock variances, meaning, and I haven't thought it all through yet, but it's going to include some criteria to make, shallow water a appropriate circumstance for a variance, but maybe not other circumstances. Okay? So I'm going to modify the ordinance, and it's going to go to LPA and then
First.
council twice.
Okay, Got it. Thank you.
So the recommended motion is pulled? The recommended motion is withdrawn, right? Officially?
Yes, Teresa amended her motion.
It was amended. It's not to approve the ordinance, it's to have the land use attorney rewrite the ordinance to include shallow water.
So as long as that's the understanding of council, what you were voting on, otherwise we'll reset it. I just want to make sure that's what everybody understood.
Ayes have it, so moved. All right. Kyle, are you done?
Yep.
One more, all right.
All right, we got last up, item 5D. This is the first reading of ordinance number 2306 LC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, providing for amendments to the Land Development Code, amending section 2.2300 reserve to provide that applications for variances are to be granted or denied by the City Council, and establishing a process and criteria for City Council consideration of variance applications, renaming section 2.2300 variances, amending section 2.2500 Board of Adjustment to remove the authority to consider variance applications from the Board of Adjustment, providing for findings of fact, providing for incorporation into the Land Development Code, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. And this is a public hearing.
Seeing that this is a public hearing right now, this is your opportunity to speak on this issue. Anyone from the public here to comment on this specific? Seeing none, I'll close the public comments and entertain a motion at this time.
I move to approve ordinance 2306 LC on first reading, forward it to the local planning agency for a formal recommendation, and then advertise the ordinance for second reading at City Council after the LPA meeting.
Do I hear a second? Okay, with a second, I'll open up to discussion. Councilmember Destin.
Well, once again, I will be ready to cheer on. We need to consider what we're doing tonight. We did this for the first 3 or 4 years the city was incorporated. Some of these variance hearings last for hours. I spoke to an attorney who had one a month ago for the Board of Adjustment for a variance to put a shed at a house. That hearing his part of it took 2 hours. That's what you're buying yourself into here, is to hear these variances, and we're going to be here till 9:30 or 9 tonight. If you start having to hear these variances, you have no idea what you're about to buy into. And the issue is, if we don't want a variance allowed on something, we can go the route that we just went on the dock links. We can say, you can't have a variance there. But when you start hearing all of these applications, get ready to pack a lunch and stay here a very long time. And not only that, it's if they do or grant a variance that we don't like, we have the option to take it to court and challenge it. We have that now. I'll sit here with the rest of you, but be very careful what we do tonight on hearing variances. On top of, if I was on the Board of Adjustments and we took the majority of what they're doing away from them, I'd say bye-bye. So I don't know what kind of effect it'll have on their attendance at meetings. It's not something I would recommend.
I agree. All right, Councilman Destin, or Schmidt.
Appreciate it. First question, similar to my last question on the last one, is the process us, then LPA, then back to us, or are we switching it up for any particular reason?
No, usually it goes LPA and then 2 readings before council, but the state law just requires it goes to LPA before adoption. So it could be either way.
Is there a reason why we're doing
Well,
this?
because you guys directed the ordinances specifically at the last meeting, so we took them here first to make sure they were the way you wanted them. And see, now I'm glad we did.
Okay. How many variance hearings have we had last year?
I mean, I don't know the exact number, but I say we have one every couple of months. Do you know the exact?
I'd say I think we had probably 8. And Councilmember Destin is right. It's the amount of time it takes for each one of them to be heard.
Right. I do believe the shed example you're giving was also a politically heated item in the community, maybe by some, so maybe that's why it took longer than others. I don't know if that's the same one that we're talking about, but I don't know if they're all taking that much time, but, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think with the staff that we have and the agenda process that we have, we could make sure we utilize the time wisely and bring the variance decisions to the council, I think. So, I think we should make it happen.
Councilmember Bagby.
Yeah, I served on the Board of Adjustment prior to coming back to the council for 4 or 5 months, and we didn't meet once. Now, there were a couple where we didn't get told till the day before, but then all of a sudden, things got worked out or people came to their senses. I'm not opposed to doing this. You know, we may, after a year, if we hear 20 of them and we're having special meetings and we're doing that, we can always vote to send it back to the Board of Adjustment. But I have gotten some feedback that people have been unhappy with our Board of Adjustment. And so this is a solution. I'm not sure it's the solution, but it is a solution.
Councilman King.
Thanks. Is it standard that the Board of Adjustments in every municipality, what they say goes? I mean, that's kind of my understanding of ours, is that what they approve is approved. I mean, obviously in a situation like this where what we've seen recently is that we brought it, it came to us and we thought twice about it. Is it possible that we could treat the Board of Adjustments similar to other committees, to where once they approve it would come back to us, where we don't have to deal with the whole variance process or that whole hearing? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's pretty typical for them to have final authority on variances. The reason why the LPA makes recommendations is because state law requires it that way for consistency with the comp plan. But something you could consider, I guess, is you could have the Board of Adjustment make their final decision like they do now. And then instead of the appeal going to the circuit court, you could have it could go to council for appeals. That way, if someone's not happy with the decision, they could come. I would just say you might end up hearing all of them anyway, because somebody's always unhappy.
My fear is that we're gonna add another. We're gonna add another thing to micromanage like we do every single meeting, and our meetings are gonna go till midnight. So I would be all for it to start, 2 years from now.
All right. Councilman Destin.
So you're not going to rerun, Johnny?
I'll second that motion there 2 years from now. But, if we have people in the community that are unhappy with the decisions made by the Board of Adjustment, I would point out that we appoint the Board of Adjustment, and we can take them on, put them off. So, there are lots of different solutions to this issue other than us taking on that responsibility. Ms. Kopp, I hope, is right and can do her research about the final appeal coming to us rather than the circuit court.
Well, I'm not final appeal. I was thinking an intermediate appeal. They'd still be able to ultimately appeal to court after you.
Well, yeah, they can appeal if they don't get what they want always.
Yeah.
But that might be a good step to go forward. But I know that I don't want to hear those hearings for 2 or 3 hours each time we have one in front of us on the council meeting.
I don't know if there's a specific type of variance that people aren't happy with. Maybe council doesn't want to get like fence and setback issues, but maybe you want to get docks. I mean, we could always have certain types go to council if there's a concern about. I'm just giving you options, John.
Yeah, no. I get what you're saying. I think what you're trying to say, you correct me if I'm wrong, but if there is a unanimous yes vote, it clearly doesn't need to come to us, right? I mean, if it's a tie vote or it's on the fence and it gets appealed, then sure, bring it on. But I mean, if we're.
But that's not what I meant. I meant if they're to put in the code, certain like dock variances go to you, as opposed to you don't get a setback variance for a fence because maybe that's not as important, or a shed. I don't know, maybe it is as important. If you care about all variances, then.
All right, Councilman Guile.
Question for you, Kim. Let's say the Board of Adjustments makes a decision, and it's something that we don't agree with here, and we make the counter decision. When they go to their court case appeal, does it hurt our decision in that court case that there was a Board of Appeal that voted opposite of what we voted?
Not really. It's the same thing with the LPA right now. They get many things before you, and your decision is the one the court will look at. I would say if you're consistent with the LPA, it's stronger than if you're not, but it's not going to necessarily mean that you lose because you didn't agree with the LPA. So I would say it's the same for the Board of Adjustment. What's going to make the court find in favor of the council or not is if you have competent, substantial evidence that you made a decision on, not what the lower board does, because maybe they didn't have competent, substantial evidence when they made their decision.
Councilman Bagby.
Yeah, I would just ask if this gets approved, it's going to the LPA, before it comes back from the LPA, that you research, because that's not the ability for us to be an interim appeal authority, because that's not my understanding, but I'm not a lawyer, and I'm probably totally wrong, but that's just never been my understanding, so, thank you.
And seeing that there's a potential time, I'm just going to keep my piece in on the record that I 100% agree with Councilman Destin. You know, we either have the board or we don't, and I don't think it's our job or need to have everything come micromanaged to us. So I'm just going to say that just in case I get to pick the tiebreaker vote up here. So just want to put that on the record. Thank you, guys. At that point, I'm going to call the vote.
Mayor,
Yeah. Is there a vote?
once again, I have the recommended motion. That's what we have.
Okay.
Approval on first reading and then take it to the LPA.
Yes.
That's it. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Look at that. Read that one more time. What does a yes vote mean? That we're going to move forward with
Yes
this?
vote is approval.
How did you vote, Councilman? Just kidding. No, no. A no is we're done with this?
Yeah, we're not doing it. Let them do their job.
So LPA has their power still?
No, Board of Adjustment.
Adjustment, sorry, yes. All right, okay, gotcha. I was counting in my head here. I did good with my tally in there. All right, thank you, Kyle. Moving right along, going right, Councilman Guile, anything you want to say that's not on the agenda? Go jump right
Yes,
in.
sir, please. First, has anyone heard from Matthew Switzer? Is he okay? Everything's good?
We had a meeting with him on Friday, and actually I thought he'd be here tonight, but he was improving. Hopefully he'll be at the next meeting, I would imagine.
Okay. Next, we approved this short-term rental impact committee. We now have the new code compliance director. Would it be okay with staff and council if that first meeting starts the week of May 13th so that we can get this thing moving forward? I think we have enough nominations in place from council members to actually enact this.
Mayor, if I may.
Jump on in.
Currently, you have 5 members, as Captain Gary Jarvis has withdrawn. So we have 5 members, and we need nomination from Councilmember Hebert and Councilmember Switzer.
Has anyone submitted that they wanted to be on the short-term rental committee that you have, Ray, still in the banks?
No one submitted any because we did not ask for application.
Yeah, he called me asking.
I'll nominate Ken Wampler then for the short-term committee, short-term rental committee. Can I get a second?
All right, a second.
All in favor?
Yeah. Oh, here's the gavel too while you're at it. Okay. Ayes have it, so moved.
So did anybody have any problem with the
No.
weekend? Okay.
Well, it's
5/13/2020.
now it's the committee members. We're asking the wrong people, whether they.
But Ray will tell them, right?
And staff can accommodate, city manager, your staff can accommodate a meeting ASAP?
Yes.
Okay.
And just for clarification to Councilman Bagby, my question was more directed toward staff, since we have a new code compliance director, that gives him plenty of time to participate in the event.
All right. Seeing nothing else from Councilman Guile? All right, Councilman Destin?
Thank you, Mayor. Oh, several months ago, we discussed the property that was for sale on the right side of the Destin Bridge as we went over, and we asked, I think, staff to facilitate with the Trust for Public Lands what they were doing. Do we have a report on what's going on there?
We had asked our rep with the Trust for Public Lands to try to reach out. We got a survey or an estimate back, I'm sorry, and the number is...
When you say an estimate, you mean like an appraisal?
Yes.
I'm sorry, an appraisal.
Let me just jump in because the Trust for Public Land wants all that information to be confidential.
I
and
understand, and
so-
that's why I just want to know that we are progressing forward.
Yeah, so, yeah, essentially, asking came in higher than appraisal. I think that's all we'd be comfortable.
And that's all. What I would like to see us do, and what I will make a motion to do, is direct land use attorney, since this is a land use issue, and city manager to work with the trust to try to facilitate some kind of opportunity to acquire that property. And I'll
Second.
make that as a motion.
Second in the motion. Any further discussions? Direction? Seeing none, call the vote. All right, ayes have it. Start negotiating.
One other short issue, with the number of people that are doing their best to drown in our local waters and up and down the beach. Someone asked me, did we have any input into where the flags go in the public awareness program? So I'll ask the city manager to contact, is it the county or the control district that's doing that now?
So the Destin Fire Control District on the Destin side of things is doing that.
Okay, well, if you would get with them and find out if there are some more places we can put the warning flags and how we can try to get this message to the folks that visit here, because each one that dies shouldn't, and bring a report back to us on what we can do to facilitate the flow of information to our visitors. And I won't bother to make that as a motion. I know you can do that. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Councilman Bagby.
Yeah, is the May 4th workshop, is that the one that Councilmember Schmidt asked us to do, that we're going to talk about the 3 issues?
No, the May 4th is the Harbor Carrying Capacity Study Workshop,
Okay.
discussion with the Army Corps of Engineers.
All right, so when is his workshop? I'm just trying to get all these dates blocked off on my calendar.
Great
because-
question. Thank you for bringing it up.
Sure. Well, I thought maybe that's what it is. And it's like, oh, no, that's not what it is.
Did that one get set yet? The one,
Okay. Can you email us tomorrow or the next day? Because my calendar is getting really full.
May 4th, what time?
I think it's at 5, is it 5 o'clock, the workshop on May 4th?
5:30.
5:30, okay. On Four Prong Lake, on that issue, could we do that the second meeting of May? I won't be here the first meeting of May. I already have a conflict that I won't be around in the city. So I don't think that should be a problem. Staff training, when are we going to do the staff training? I forgot to ask that in my call this morning. We were going to set that up with Sandy, and she's back, and Ray. So
And
staff and committee training, I'm sorry.
I spoke with Sandy today,
Okay.
and we were planning on having it on Thursday, April 27th, I believe. However, a lot of the liaisons are not going to be able to make it, and Sandy would like the liaisons all to be there. So I was going to work with the liaisons to get a good date where most of them will be there.
Okay. I don't want to whine, but I got like 3 paying jobs and 1 non-paying job, and I have a calendar that is really crunched. So if you can help me, I would really appreciate that.
We'll keep you informed, sir.
Thank you. And I asked for the budget workshop, the one that's in May. I asked for a couple of things, an update on the FY '23, because we used to have discussions
on where we were currently, and now they're on the consent agenda, and I'm okay with that, but about every quarter, we need to go through, because I noticed some things like no money in one account where there should have been money in one account. So I want to ask them to bring that budget for discussion. So that won't be, for those of you who've done a lot of budget workshops, that won't be the 5-minute one that we normally do as the first budget workshop. I also asked them to bring the renewal and replacement schedule, which we had talked about, and we had been promised that we would have one, just like a reserve study, and we could see when each truck was going to have to be replaced and each air conditioner was going to have to be replaced. So I look forward to seeing that schedule at that budget workshop. And finally, I will make the motion that we have direct staff and the Public Works Public Safety Committee to start the process on speed humps on Indian Trail.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussions? Seeing none, call the vote. Ayes have it, so moved.
Thank you.
Twenty speed humps. They're going to take care of it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Speaking of the speed humps, I think, Mr. Burgess, you were off at the Hurricane Symposium whenever the Main Street speed bumps got approved. I've been asked by some neighbors and some dog walkers, do we have any idea when they'll be able to put those in, and where on Main Street will you put them? My end of my driveway is a good spot. It's right there from both sides.
Okay, so we have received a quote from our continuing services contractor for those 2 speed humps already, and we've submitted those. We've already started the process for that. Our illustrious city engineer was on vacation last week. We'll try to keep him from doing that in the future. So he and I will get together in the coming days, and we'll find a couple of suitable spots for a pair of speed humps.
I think if you, Ryan will probably agree, coming down Main Street, the north end, right where y'all normally have all the water from that easement off the airport property, Mickey said that in front of her property there, it wouldn't affect anyone's driveway or any of the streets leading onto Main Street. That would also slow down that traffic at that end. So if that's one of the areas that's been suggested by several neighbors, you can come to my house, Ryan, I'll show you where it is, okay?
Okay, I'm just remembering what former Mayor Jarvis said. He didn't want to have to run over one every day.
Right, he has another street he can go out, it's on
He
the
could
other
have,
end.
he could have ran
so-
for council and voted it
Yeah,
down.
he should have gotten on council.
He should have stayed in office if he wanted to affect decisions.
The other thing, the resident parking pass, since we've already discussed that, I don't have to worry about that being brought up. I did want to speak to our recreation director, Lisa, is on the mend. She was in the hospital. She's now out, and I'm very happy to hear that she is doing well. And Lance had to fuss at her to get off of a Teams call this morning because she was still supposed to be resting. So get well, Lisa. And then Webb, Panama City Beach is lucky they're getting you. I don't think they understand how much fun you're going to have just to walk from your house to the city hall there. I pass it at least twice a week now that I've got my new area, so I'll stop by and check on you. And other than that, thank you for all you've done for us at the city for 18 years, Webb. And I'll hate that I'll miss your party on Friday, but know that we'll be thinking about you and missing you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman King.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Webb, we're gonna miss you. It's a shame that you're leaving. But we're gonna miss you. I think that we're in a rough place without you. You know, you got big shoes to fill. So best of luck to you. Just want to say welcome to Troy and the Code Compliance Director. We're looking forward to working with you. I am for sure. I'll definitely take you up on a ride along. That sounds like fun. And I enjoyed visiting with you today. It seems like I really feel confident that the Code Compliance Department's in good hands, just based on our 20-minute discussion, so who knows, but I feel real confident. I would also, on the speed bump deal, I would like to say that I think that we should consider limiting speed bump humps to roads that are longer than a mile, because, you know, if you're not familiar, we've had situations in the past where I've had several friends that are like, we need speed bumps, let me know when they're coming. And it's like, that's not happening. Like, we'll have speed bumps all over this town. I get it. I lived off Indian Trail for a lot of my life. Lived there longer than I've lived anywhere else. And it's a speedway. But I think we're opening up a can of worms, and I would like to just say I told you so right now. And that's all I got. Thank you.
All right, Councilman Schmidt.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me this time to present my options here, my items, so thank you. Do we have a status of the Calhoun Clement Taylor Park renovations? Last I heard, Ryan was getting a survey or engineer from Ronald and Associates, or whoever our engineer on staff is. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, the plans have been updated and those have been provided to county. So county has all the information needed to submit the application to the portal. I asked for an update as to the status of that. I have not received anything yet.
So it says that on our capital project item, it says that new construction project manager will be tasked to draft the construction RFP after the closeout of Captain Rural Melvin Park project. Is that accurate, or is that not right?
Well, they will be doing that at some point, but we'll have to wait till we have the sub-agreement.
What can we do to move this along? Because we've been waiting for this daggum portal thing again, Jeff. Here we are, talking about the magic portal again.
Well, at this point, everything that we need to provide the county, to my understanding, is provided. So I'm not sure what more we can do on our end to move that along.
Okay. So our staff's stance right now is that we're waiting for the county.
We're waiting, well, the county's probably going to say they're waiting for
They're
Treasury.
waiting from Treasury.
That's right. I've asked numerous times if there's anything in addition
Okay.
that they need from us, and I haven't received any response yet, so I think
Okay.
we're good.
All right, well, I'm going to follow up on that one. I appreciate the update. Thank you. Status of the boardwalk planks that I saw that we got them. The boardwalk planks nearly a year ago, we asked for y'all to put together. I know we have them. Fortunately, we had a tragic death on the beach not too long ago. This was one of the measures that we were trying to get done on the city's boardwalks, just to provide one more thing of safety information. So where are we at with getting those installed?
So Ms. Firth had informed me several weeks ago that all of the boards that we had routed with the messages have been put in place on the various trails to the beach.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Glad to hear that. What is the status of the RFQ for the city center design?
So there were, I think, 11 received, and it is going to the bid committee for review this coming Thursday, and they will recommend probably the top 3, is my guess, to myself. I'll read over them and then present the top 3 to the council for consideration, and we'll have representatives from those top 3 come in and make a presentation to you guys.
At the May 1st meeting? If we're doing the big committee this Thursday?
Taking my thunder here.
On your side
We'll
on
shoot
this.
for that.
Okay, so you got that? He said they'll shoot for that.
Shoot for that?
Is there can y'all help me understand how we were able to do the RFQ process for a linear park and road, and we now tonight approved you to go negotiate, but we're still waiting for the city center RFQ? Is there a reason for that?
There was only one response for the linear park, and right now it's a high priority because there is a tighter deadline on that particular project. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, I understand it's a grant, but I think the city center design thing has been a priority on our strategic stuff for quite some time, so.
Well, Lance, I could add to that as well.
Sure.
We had several key staff out recently, and I don't know that they had time with the 11 submissions to get all the way through all those and adequately be prepared to, for that to go to bid committee. So we did take the one to bid committee because it was just the one, but the others, we wanted to make sure we did our due diligence.
Okay. Sounds good. The workshop that Mr. Bagby brought up, are y'all gonna be able to put some dates, options and send that to us? Is that tomorrow or not? I think you said tomorrow, but sooner as possible. Is that y'all gonna present to us? I know we were hoping to have those options tonight, but.
Internally in the department, we're shooting for middle of next month.
Okay. Thank you. We in the past, we talked about the Crosstown Connector property, the multi-million-dollar property that we have right there. We talked about making it like a walking trail and park, and we've had some various discussions about it. I know that in the past, Mr. Destin brought it up again after I did, and we did come to the realization that there's an opening. I personally would like to see it more of a welcoming, that area. I know in the past, y'all tried talking about garbage cans and, all of that, but I think we should figure out how to make it a little bit more than a 2-foot wide opening that shows it's available to use. There's a big red gate that's locked. There's a wire to the left of the big red gate that's locked, and there's a 2-foot opening. And along the road, there's, I say wire, chain, fence or something, one wire. So I'd like to make it where we open that door up, let's welcome people to realize that they can actually use this multi-million-dollar property that's just sitting there. I don't know if y'all want me to make a motion specifically to have them open those gates, or if there's discussion you'd like to have about that, I can throw it in a motion form. I'd like to have just a little bit more opening, though, to use it as a park.
I'm definitely in favor of opening it up. I know as a 15, 16-year-old, I would definitely be back there doing donuts.
I mean, the staff's done a great job at maintaining the cutting, and it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
And the more we cut it, the more it rains, it's going to continue to thrive. So that's been great, but I think we need to make it open.
And so, I mean, we work with sign chicks and everything. Can we have some kind of just very soft preliminary, this is a park?
I would just like to
sign?
keep it simple and just open the gate, but just, Mr. Destin, do you have any?
I would suggest that you make a motion to direct.
Okay.
I would suggest you make a motion to direct the city manager to work with the city engineer. I know he's up to it, to just open that up so it looks like it actually
Right.
can
All right.
be used.
Yeah.
He's got a sign already in his documents.
I'll make a motion to
I read
direct city manager to work with city engineer to make the opening of that area welcoming and more open so that the public can see that it's open to use.
Second.
Okay.
Just come back with a design for us to look at.
Yep.
Sounds
Councilman
good.
Bagby?
Agreed.
Yeah, my only thing is I don't want the 16-year-old Bobby Wagner back there doing donuts. So if it's open to if it's wide enough to get a vehicle in, then I won't support that. But if you want a sign or bollards or whatever you want to do where it looks a little, but not just open the gates, and
Yeah.
that's what I've heard.
Yeah, I think,
Open the floodgates, Mr. Bagby, let them in. Let's go.
I think the city manager understands it's a pedestrian, not vehicular park.
I'm on, exactly, Mr. Destin's what he's saying.
And with that, do we have a landing page for the conceptual, kind of like we did with Joe's Bayou? I know that was a DEP kind of thing, but do we have anything on the city website or anything with what this is going to look like from a crosstown connector plan that we approved? Do we have any page? Because I mean, just as a throwing it out there while you make the sign, I would love some kind of QR code or some kind of way for them to welcome to the park and here's what it's going to look like when it's done, just so people understand exactly where we have now 100% approved this on. Just throwing that out there as well as a discussion part of that sign. So I see no other further discussion. You have anything else?
Oh,
on that?
yes, I have one more
Oh, no,
thing.
We got to vote.
Oh,
Vote
yeah,
on your
sure, let's
motion.
vote. Love to
All
do
right,
that.
voting on Kevin's motion.
Thanks. make it more.
Official.
Official.
You can add it to your list for next week.
I had an item on my agenda about speed humps in the city street speed humps. Mr. Bagby, you kind of got some of the things going, so I appreciate what you kicked off there. I guess I'll just add to that, and Michael, y'all can do what you want with the Public Works Committee. I know he gave the motion to do Indian Trail. Maybe take this idea a little one step further after you take his motion and do what he said. You know, we have a speeding problem. We've talked about that for a long time. You know, all these roads, we know we have a speeding problem. We talked about law enforcement. They do what they can do to go to certain areas whenever Lance and staff ask them to do it, and they do that. And but just the other day, Teresa, I'm not sure if you saw it, but somebody on Main Street obviously was probably going too fast. They took down, for anybody that travels, they took down the "We Drive Slow, We Love Our Kids." I mean, like literally went off the road, and there's probably no report of it because it probably wasn't a non-mobile vehicle, and they just drove off. One of the speed reducing devices are one of the best way we can try to slow people down, and there will be complaints about them. And sometimes though, those naysayers are the loudest ones, but the greater benefit of slowing people down that are distracted drivers, speeding drivers, and all the above, if they choose to fly over the speed hump, that's their choice, but I feel like it will slow people down. So I was just going to suggest that the Public Works and Safety Committee look a little bit further and bring us some ideas so we can use the correct process to have the advisory committee look at it and bring us some thoughts. You know, the Bayou Street, you talked about Indian Trail. Well, Bayou is part of Indian Trail, and there's people, that's a drag strip too. You know, we got Kelly, which is the school. There's all sorts of streets in the city is all I'm getting to. So I'm not going to make a motion right now for that one since we already got one for the Public Works and Safety, but I would encourage, I'm telling my committee member to maybe look into that, as do a little bit of a study and bring something back to us with a list of recommendations for that. I'm going to encourage that committee to possibly do that. So that's all the last thing I had.
Awesome. Now I'm going to piggyback off that because after hearing a lot of people, and so I love all our committee members. I'm going to recognize our chairman, Jim Wood, because every time that we get any kind of public committee, public safety comment, email, we always respond. He always responds immediately, but then he's out there that day or the next morning with that applicant looking at it from the ground, and it always comes because it's a bus stop, it's a kid stop. So I would love, while we work on our mobility plan, and that we work on not only the speed, but I would love to see where every bus stop is in Destin and see what we can do to really utilize that, because the complaints or, you know, the suggestions always come because the kids are walking to school or this is a bus stop. So obviously that is a hot point for safety. So I would love to kind of use that as our touch point of where and why we're doing what we're doing is school bus stops. They're all over the place. And I think more are used than others, but whether it's just about the safety aspects, I know Live Oak Fibers has asked us as they come into our community, what can they do? Well, I would love for them to have Wi-Fi signals at every bus stop. I would love to have a trash receptacle at every bus stop, potentially even some benches. Really push a school function safety network at this citywide issue of safety that we have. So that's just kind of my one thought today is, everyone that comes in worried about sidewalks or wanting additional sidewalks or bumps always comes with my kids crossing the street, and this is a safety hazard for the kids walking to school. So that was just my thought, was I would love to see an overlay while we do the mobility plan of what those bus stops look like and what are the school routes are having these kids walk to the stops. So we really influence that into our mobility plan, not only for our walkers of adults and the dog walkers, but also the kids walking to these stops. I think that would just be a very easy overlay to justify a lot of safety issues and potentially connectivity issues when it comes to fiber optics and some Wi-Fi as it comes into town. So again, just out there throwing that my kind of summary of what we've heard over the past several months. It always ends up being about the kids, as it should be. But I think the bus stops is a really good place to start our safety look when it comes to a lot of connectivity and mobility. So hopefully we can see the mobility plan soon. And when we do, I would love to see an additional overlay potentially through Public Works and safety eyes of what that may look like for all of us to move forward and support that. So that's just my one thought tonight after hearing a lot of public safety with the kids is the bus stops and using that as our touch point for everything. So with that, I will continue on to the attorneys or to the manager.
Just real, school district's website, all those spots are listed right now, so we can get it.
I may chime in, having taken part of that.
Yeah, please.
They are on the district's website, and that's where we need to go to get them. But they also change them every year.
Yes.
Depending on where the students live. And so it's something that's going to be moving around, but we do need to look at it, and they'll provide that information to you.
No, that's very fair. I didn't even think of that. So maybe just, if we have them year over year, if that's public information that's out there, maybe find the ones that are clearly not moving. And obviously, it's not one size fits all, but probably finding the hot points of where our land development map wants the density and where clearly the school district is showing the densities actually, and kind of marrying the couple. So again, not a every stop thing, but really trying to find the peak of how we can make an impact with these things. Whoever's up next? I've lost my.
I don't have anything, thanks.
Yep. All right, Kyle.
And just thanks to Webb, I'm going to miss all of your daily phone calls.
He can still call you.
He assured me that he would pick up the phone if we have questions. So I'm going to get his cell phone personal.
I think I'll be calling you a lot still, probably. So.
Just don't put it in an email, please.
All right. So with no further discussion from the council comments, I'm going to go to public comments. Anyone who has gone this far, I appreciate you, and this is your last opportunity. I'll look at. We made one more happy citizen tonight.
Hey, thank you, everyone, staff, board, spirit of collaboration, right? All of us working together to protect our kids. One more thing. Braden used to protect our right-of-ways. Can we get one city council member to maybe look after them for us once in a while? Not the parking and stuff, but the actual ones with the water, right? The 14 or 16 that are listed somewhere and cleaning those up. Just want to make sure we don't forget about that, right? Because
what is that? What?
Sorry. I'm
No,
really
that's
sorry.
okay. I just want to make sure we know.
We have a list of right-of-ways, right? You guys understand. The water right-of-ways, right?
Oh.
We have a list of them somewhere. Braden, he was pretty good about making sure that we were making sure that people weren't using them wrong, right? They parking their stuff there, hiding stuff there, whatever. What happens, someone sells their house that's next to one, the guy buys it, thinks that's his property, stuff like that. If we can just have a council member or staff member, just keep an eye on that kind of stuff for us.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for everything, guys.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Becky Pritchard, 145 Timber Court. I just wanted to comment on, and I wanted to meet the new code guy. Hi. I just wanted to comment on the speed bump thing. When y'all are looking at all the overlays, if you will also taking, and this may be not something I need to say, but if y'all will look at where people are going to exit to avoid the speed bumps, I guarantee you it's going to be my road. So please look at all that stuff when you are looking at the speed bump situation. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, I'm not going to talk about humps, but I am going to talk about some other things. I think when you're looking at budget, I think you need to look at more law enforcement in these residential neighborhoods. Because I know my cop comes down every morning between 6 and 7:30, check all the houses, make sure nothing was broken into, and you never see them again. So anyway, the other thing I was thinking about is now all of our main streets in this town are 30 miles an hour speed limit, correct? So are our residential areas. Why aren't they 25? If we lower the speed limit on the main streets, why don't we lower the ones in the residential areas? We've now allowed LSVs, they only go 27. So we needed to look at those kinds of things as well. It would make it easier for law enforcement if somebody was speeding and the speed limit was 25, zap, that's it. The other thing is not my end, which would that be? That would be the east end, I guess. The other end, the long end of Indian Trail, they got their sidewalk because of speeding. That's why that sidewalk goes all the way down that street. It never was continued to the other end. I don't know why, but it wasn't. So anyway, I think we need to really, really look at that. But to answer your question, Mr. Bagby, about the length of the dock, I happen to know a resident at the long end of Indian Trail who has a yacht. And his dock is going to have to be at least 300 feet long to be able to get his yacht at his own dock. So yeah, there are places on Indian Trail, you can go out 3 football fields and you're not, you're still in 3 feet of water. So I think we do need to look at some of those things. But anyway, I think that's all I had to say. That's it, thanks.
All right. Jump on or?
Are y'all set up where there's a separate speed enforcement team or I know how Walton County's set up, and I think y'all are set up.
We
if
have
I
our
remember
community-
organizational.
We have our community resource deputies or our speed enforcement units.
Okay.
That would be Deputy Benninger.
So
That's
that
one
we
for the
have
city.
one.
Right now, we have one, yes.
Okay. And
Now, we do the other deputies that are working do speed enforcement as well, but the one that addresses specific areas that are pointed out by people to us would be Deputy Benninger.
Does the sheriff's office have the ability to surge? Do you have a separate speed enforcement division or a group that, I know they're always out there on the island. So, I'll see 2, 3, 4 of them out there on the island some mornings. So is that a separate unit or is that just the Okaloosa Island speed unit?
That's the deputy that's assigned to Okaloosa Island.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, there's more than one deputy out there. I don't know if there's only one running radar.
There's only one out there at any given shift. The island has one deputy assigned to it.
Yeah, having driven back and forth to Pensacola for about 4 months, that is not an exactly true statement because I will tell you I personally observed multiple deputies out there.
If there's a second deputy out there that needs somebody that's assigned to another area that's moved over to help out, such as one of our rovers that is responsible for the entire area. But I can assure you that is a 100% accurate statement. There's one deputy per shift assigned to Okaloosa Island.
So now you're giving me the answer I want, which is if there are rovers, why can't we get some of the rovers over here to help us with our speed problem?
You do.
Okay.
That same rover that helps, the rover that helps on the island, helps in the city. The other deputies that are assigned to other areas also assist. In addition, we are applying for a grant. You know how grants work. Don't know if we'll get approved for it or not, but it looks good. That we are applying for a grant to pay overtime for deputies to come out and work speed enforcement and aggressive driving specifically in the city of Destin.
Okay, so if the deputy is out on the island, but this will be my last question because I think I know the answer to this. Deputy's out on the island, he's got a rover or she has a rover helping him. Is there a shift leader or a sergeant or a corporal or something that could also be out if somebody says, call your supervisor that also covers the island?
Yeah,
that's where I saw
the
3.
sergeant and corporal, we have a lieutenant, sergeant, and corporal, and that lieutenant, sergeant, and corporal works the entire district, which would include Destin.
And then I guess while we're throwing questions, I got one as well. As far as the beach goes, and it really goes back to the safety of the beach flags and all that. I know talking to our lifeguards, obviously they're not sworn officers. They can't fine someone or detain someone for being in the water in double red. do we have anyone assigned as like a beach unit, or would that be one of the rovers? If it's double red flags to have, when it's double red flags, Destin wants a rover out there letting people know if they don't get out, they're getting fined.
We currently have a beach unit assigned to Destin and a beach unit assigned to Okaloosa Island.
All right, thank you. All right, no, we did public comments, right? No, we didn't? I thought, oh, we're not done with it. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I thought we were, okay.
He asked a question.
Yeah, I only praised you.
All right, Jim Wood, 3790 Mr. Way. Mayor, I appreciate comments earlier. So let's talk humps, bumps, and tables for a second, all right? Just yeah. Okay. Woo! Parking lots get bumps. Roads get humps and tables. Humps are rounded, tables are round, flat on top of the crosswalk on them, normally, all right? So use proper terminology. Now, I don't know anymore the procedures for speed humps. We're all over the place. Some come to my committee, some come to you. I don't know what the rules are anymore. When I did mine on Misty Way years ago, I had to do a stealth speed study. I had to do a petition. There was a process to follow. That process went away sometime, I don't know when.
It's still the process, Mr. Wood, but at the end of the night, this council has the authority, as Mr. Destin has said multiple times, we could tonight say, I want to put a speed hump on First Street, and if four of us vote for it,
and we could be
they're gonna go do
inconsistent
it.
for a week.
And that's
There
the
you
process,
go.
too.
There you go. Inconsistency abound. That's perfect. Okay. So, all right. So we will take a look on my committee and try to figure out where some other speed humps can go at. I like the idea of the school bus stops. That's been an issue not only with speed humps but with sidewalks also. We got a lot of school bus stops where there are no street lights in the area. It's dark. It's a problem. So we will take a look at that. Let me see. So I know myself and Mr. Zungusi had some discussions over time about maybe the LPA should have some final authority. Well, over time, I refused to do that. And tonight I saw why I refused to do that. Because if you don't like my decision, you're going to take my power away, and I'm going to take my tiddlywinks and go home, just like Mr. Destin said. All right, so be careful what you do. Okay, we want and need committees, but if you take everybody's power away, we're all going to go home. I'll tell you to your face. All right, so be careful with consistency. That's a tough word. Every time if something comes to y'all all the time. And whether it's y'all or a committee, and people like or don't like something, that doesn't matter. It matters what the land code says, what the ordinances say, what the procedures and checklists say. That's what counts. I hear too many folks say I don't like something, even on committees, even on mine I hear it sometimes. So be careful with that, because we're going to get ourselves in trouble if we're not consistent. That's what makes people mad when we're not consistent. So I challenge you to do that. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Sorry for being here so long. And this has been about a 3-hour meeting on the shortest agenda I've seen in years.
You're welcome.
Sometimes we're our own worst enemy, including me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Oh my goodness, John.
Anything for John?
Go ahead.
John Stevens, 4025 Indian Trail. I'm not
Speed
talking
humps
humps,
on the
bumps,
water.
or anything. But livery enforcement was brought up, so I figured I'd go ahead and talk. Always remember there's a moratorium. So if they are violating the moratorium, therefore the livery ordinance, they got 3 strikes, they're out pretty much. I was going to wait for the next topic to talk about whenever we presented the harbor capacity steering recommendations, but I figured I'd just go and bring it up now. Other ways to control, the county has their own ordinance which does not apply to any destined livery operators. There's stuff in there that says that you have to have a brick and mortar business, so that could be an option. Another thing that to prevent these single vessel businesses, you have to have a chase vessel at all times. So that's something else to think about. Another thing that popped up in January, Florida passed SB 606. So they now are requiring, or they changed the definition of livery. I can read it to you, but I'm not going to. Some of the things that now fall in, well, it's always fallen into is peer-to-peer rentals, bareboat charters, which the county code is very confused on, kind of worked with them. I know there's been confusion with the city of Destin code on bareboat charters. Paddlecraft rentals are now considered part of the livery per the state. And then something that actually came up is boating clubs. They're actually now considered a livery. When we wrote our ordinance, however long ago, we didn't really consider boating clubs. So if we are going to consider them, I mean, I definitely think we need to grandfather them in and then let them follow the regulations.
That was my question. Is it a grandfather at that point?
I would figure, so.
Yeah, hypothetically.
Okay, that's all I got.
Thank you. All right, anyone else from the public? All right, seeing none, this is adjourned.